Chapter 218. 7 senior totem warriors, who were almost the most powerful people in the Yanjiao tribe, attacked with all their strength. However, after a short fight, all of them collapsed. It was completely one-sided. What Xiao Xian was worried about happened. This was indeed the bat leader from before. However, compared to the time when it had transformed and broken out of its shell, it had become much stronger. If it had just transformed, Ao and the other 6 people would have been able to fight it. However, it was different now. No one had expected that such a ferocious beast could grow so fast. Was it just a ferocious beast? No, it was more than that. Before they came, Ao, Guihe, and the others thought that it was just a slightly more powerful beast. They did not expect that this beast had already started to move towards the king level. Moreover, it had taken quite a big step. Even if there were 10 or 100 senior totem warriors like Ao, they would not dare to confront the king beast. Speaking of the king beast, the people in the tribe would even hold a kind of awe. For Xiao Xian, who had seen the king-level beast at a close distance, he clearly knew what kind of level it was. There was no way to resist it. Now, the bat leader had taken a big step toward the king beast, much faster than Xiao Xian had expected. If it were not related to the fire crystals, even Ao would choose to stay away from such a ferocious beast instead of confronting it head-on. However, the fire crystals were related to their return to the old land. They could not give it up easily. Ao was blocked, and the spearhead had been broken by the wing claw. After Ao, 2 more warriors were directly slapped to the ground before they could get close, and their heads hit the ground heavily. Fortunately, there was a layer of soft mud at the bottom of the pit. Otherwise, they would have hit the hard rock directly. Even so, they were still injured. Blood flowed down from the wounds on their heads. Coupled with the sound wave attack that they could not hear, they suddenly felt as if their brains were about to explode. It was as if the entire world had become chaotic and was spinning. Blood flowed into their eyes, blurring their vision. Before Dai, who had just struggled out of the pit wall, the black wings flapped over like lightning, fanning Dai into the pit wall again. This time, Dai was embedded deeper. Ta and Wei's situation wasn't good either. Every time they thought they were one step away from success, they would be beaten back. Gigu looked at the developed incisors that were biting his stone knife. He looked up and met the pair of colorless but murderous eyes. At such a distance, even if he immediately released the handle of the stone knife, Gigu had no confidence in successfully avoiding this big guy whose strength completely suppressed them. Since he couldn't avoid it, he could only brace himself and face it. His hand that was holding the handle of the knife exerted force, and he jumped up with the help of the force. His other hand pulled out a smaller stone knife from behind his waist, and with the speed of lightning, he stabbed the bat leader's rapidly twitching nose. However, the imagined situation of the knife piercing into the bat's nose did not happen. Gigu, who jumped into the air, was caught by a wing claw. On the wing claw, the sharp claw made a long cut on Gigu's abdomen. If it had been deeper, it might have been directly cut open. Gigu avoided the vital parts just now, but the situation at the moment was not optimistic. Probably Gigu's behavior completely irritated the bat leader. Gigu only felt a sharp pain in his body. Although he couldn't hear the surrounding sounds, at the moment, he could clearly hear a series of bone-breaking sounds coming from inside his body. The stone knife that was bitten by the bat leader's incisors was directly crushed. As for Gigu, who dared to attack its nose, it didn't intend to let him go. The wing claw firmly grasped the little prey. It intended to use its sharp teeth to suck the little blood of the little prey, and then bite the bones of the prey and chew it. Looking at the teeth in the vampire bat's open mouth, Gigu felt that the blood in his body instantly dropped to the freezing point, and even the pain of the broken bones in his body faded away. Gigu thought that he was going to die, and that he would never be able to lead a team to hunt in the future. When encountering such a level of ferocious beast, no one could escape. However, those knife-like teeth stopped just as they were about to touch him. The surrounding sounds seemed to come back again. The feeling that his head was about to explode gradually disappeared. At this moment, whether it was the people who were preparing to attack, the people who were beaten without any power to fight back, or the people who were almost eaten by the wing claw, they all found the bat leader's strange behavior. Its attention moved away from Gigu, moved a little, and then looked down. At its feet, a man stood. After seeing the man standing at the feet of the bat leader, Ao almost spat out blood. Didn't they throw this guy out? Shouldn't he climb out of the giant pit along the grass vines? Why did he appear here again? The shaman said that even if they couldn't bring back the fire crystals, they must bring Xiao Xian back safely. Safe and sound. But, what about the situation now? Xian, get out of the way. Xian. Ao and Ta wanted to take this opportunity to attack and let Xiao Xian escape. Stop! Xiao Xian shouted in a hurry. Seeing Ao and the others stop what they were doing, Xiao Xian looked up at the bat leader who was staring at him. Accompanied by the rhythmic sound of airflow, a black mist was exhaled from its mouth. Its wing claw moved and threw away the little prey that it was holding. It had no interest in that little prey now. If Ao and others could see the invisible energy, they would find that a trace of red energy was released from the fire crystal in Xiao Xian's hand. Part of the released energy was absorbed by Xiao Xian, and the other part floated into the body of the bat leader in front of him. Seeing that the bat leader was staring at him and no longer paying attention to others, Xiao Xian said, "Chief, you go up first." Impossible. Xian, leave quickly. Chief, before we came, the shaman said, Xiao Xian said. The shaman said that if there was a special situation, Xiao Xian should be the first and listen to Xiao Xian. Even if the chief joined them now, at this time, they had to think about the shaman's words. Looking at Xiao Xian standing there and the bat leader, Ao didn't know what to do. What the hell was going on? For a time, everyone stood there and no longer attacked the bat leader, but they also maintained a high degree of vigilance. As long as it moved, they would attack again. Even if such an attack might not cause much harm to it, it could still divert its attention and delay time. Patter. The bat leader's wings moved. Ao and the others immediately tensed up and looked over there, only to find that the bat leader just retracted its wings, folded them, and continued to stand there. It meant that it didn't intend to attack for the time being. Xiao Xian was relieved. Sure enough, he made the right bet. Just like last time, the bat leader was very interested in the energy of the fire crystal, which was one of the reasons why he was willing to take the risk. But just now, he couldn't tell others at all, and the battle began. If the bat leader could be quiet, everything would be easy. Time passed little by little. The bat leader didn't move, and Ao and others didn't leave. After checking everyone's injuries, Ao asked Ta and Wei to take Gigu, who was the most seriously injured, and another person out of the giant pit. He would continue to watch here. Chapter 219. Outside the giant pit, Kiki and the others were guarding outside. Caesar wanted to go up the mountain several times, but he was stopped. He could only walk around anxiously. They didn't hear any sound, but they could feel a little vibration, which was very strange. Several people also wanted to go down to see the situation, but before that, the leader had ordered them to wait for the whistle. They didn't hear the leader's whistle until now, so they couldn't act rashly. The sun had already set. What should we do? Kiki looked at Tua. Tua shook his head. As time went by, everyone became more and more uneasy. Hey, someone is coming up. The person guarding the edge of the giant pit shouted. It's team leader Ta. And Wei. The people who had been waiting outside the giant pit immediately went over. Ta and Wei found a place to put the two seriously injured people down the mountain and let them drink some medicine. They also needed a place without miasma to have a good rest, which would help them recover. Wei, you stay here first, I'll go down and have a look. After a pause, Ta said to the others, step back, don't get too close to the pit and don't go down. After a short fight, Ta also knew the gap between them and the bat leader. That was not an ordinary ferocious beast. Even if the two advance groups all fought together, they might not be able to hurt the bat leader much. Instead, they might all be killed. In the giant pit, Xiao Xian was still urging the power in his body to release the energy of the fire crystal in his hand. Fortunately, Xiao Xian had been absorbing the energy of the fire crystal, so he was not too tired. However, there was a limit to everyone's absorption of the fire crystal. Just like the warriors who went to the fire pit to absorb the energy of the fire crystal, there was a limit to their improvement. It was impossible for a newly awakened junior totem warrior to reach the senior level. If they overestimated themselves and were too greedy, they might explode and die because they couldn't control the totem power in their body. Therefore, after feeling the limit, Xiao Xian stopped absorbing. It would not be too late to absorb when he was tired. However, the big guy in front of him was still absorbing the red energy lines released from the fire crystal. If Ao could see those energy lines, he would be shocked. A ferocious beast could actually absorb the energy of the fire crystal. It's just that they never knew. The light from above was getting dimmer and dimmer. The thick miasma had already blocked most of the light, and now it was even dimmer. Ao did not know what would happen if he waited any longer. They did not like the dark night, which made them feel even more uneasy. Looking at the man and the bat who were still standing there, Ao cautiously moved towards Xiao Xian. When Ao was only 2 steps away from Xiao Xian, the bat leader suddenly looked at Ao. One of its wings moved, but it did not open. It was more like a warning. A drop of cold sweat slid down from Ao's forehead. He even breathed carefully. He could feel the warm black mist coming out of the bat's mouth and nostrils. Xiao Xian gestured to Ao with his other hand, which was facing away from the bat, to tell Ao not to worry and not to come closer. Looking at the bat leader's wing claw, Ao decided to retreat first. Otherwise, if he angered the bat leader, Xiao Xian, him, and the other people around would not be able to escape. When he was about to retreat, Ao could not help but glance at Xiao Xian's arm, which was reaching out to the bat leader. He wanted to see what Xiao Xian was holding in his hand. The light was very dim. Because Ao was closer and had good eyesight, even if he could not see the color of the thing in Xiao Xian's hand, he could roughly judge what it was. Fire crystal? When he took a closer look, he found that the color of the fire crystal had become much lighter. The color of the fire crystal would only become lighter in one case. Ao had seen the fire crystal become lighter in the fire pit many times. But now, it was the first time in his life that he saw the color of the fire crystal become lighter outside the fire pit. What did Xian do? He could release the energy of the fire crystal. No wonder the shaman had such an attitude towards Xiao Xian. Ao suppressed the shock in his heart. After thinking for a while, he stared at the bat leader and stepped back. After taking 2 steps back, he stepped on something. Ao used his toes to push the layer of soft soil above the ground and saw a piece of fire crystal about the same size as the one he had just picked up. The previous one, because of the sudden appearance of the bat leader, had fallen and he did not know where it had fallen. He did not expect to pick up another one now. Ao used his toes to pick up the fire crystal, and the crystal on the ground was lifted up. When he was about to pick up the fire crystal with his hand, Ao suddenly felt a strong evil spirit coming towards him. A black shadow broke through the poisonous miasma and quietly came to him. If it were not for Ao's rich experience and intuition, he would not even know how he died. After the previous fight, Ao did not dare to take it directly. He instantly exerted strength under his feet, and the soft soil was shaken up. Ao used the strength under his feet to dodge the attack, which was like a huge blade. He barely avoided the attack, but before Ao landed on the ground, the sharp wing claws had come from above and almost nailed Ao there in the next moment. Fast! Too fast! Ao's usual spear had been destroyed. At this moment, he could only pull out a stone knife and raise it to block the claw. He knew that this bat leader could easily destroy his long spear and Gui's saber. He might not be able to withstand the next blow, but he had to do it even if he couldn't. Ao also knew that the moment his feet touched the ground, the wing claws would be nailed directly on the knife, even over the stone knife, and nailed on him. But there was no way to retreat. When the wing claws were nailed down, an arm was raised and blocked between the wing claws and Ao. The wing claws, which were about to be nailed with a fierce attack, suddenly stopped, as if the pause button had been pressed. Ao's feet landed on the ground, but he did not run away. He still maintained the posture of holding the knife, but looked at Xiao Xian in front of him. The bat leader, after pausing for a few seconds, took back its wing claws. As for the piece of fire crystal that Ao had just found, it was swept away by the bat leader's wing before he grabbed it. He did not know where it went. In fact, Xiao Xian was not confident that he could stop the bat leader who suddenly went crazy. But he could not watch it go mad at Ao, so he could only try. It was really useful. The bat leader really cared about the fire crystal very much. There were many fire crystals here, but those dug out showed no sign of being absorbed. There was only one reason for this situation: it could not absorb the energy in the fire crystal. It could perceive where the fire crystal was. The sinkhole was also its masterpiece. That was to say, the fire crystals on the ground were probably dug out by the bat leader. It dug out some fire crystals, but it could not get the energy of the fire crystals. Xiao Xian speculated that it should swallow the fire crystals like eating prey. However, fire crystals were fire crystals after all. Even such a ferocious beast that was moving towards becoming a king beast could not digest them. It would poop out the same way it ate it. The ground in the sinkhole was covered with a layer of rotten things. Among them, there were many substances that looked like mud, but in fact, they were piled up by the bat leader's feces. The piece of fire crystal under Ao's feet was excreted by the bat leader. The soft mud was actually its feces. Ao, who had just escaped, had not yet calmed down. He heard the movement of the grass vines and saw Ta coming down from above. Ao waved his hand, indicating that they should not come over. If the bat leader went mad again, Xiao Xian might not be able to stop it again. Ao had roughly guessed what Xiao Xian was doing. But he could not believe it because of the limited knowledge he had. Even so, he did not want more people to know Xiao Xian's special secret. The shaman must know that Xiao Xian was special, but he had not said it. Naturally, he had his own considerations. 3 hours later, it was getting late. The moonlight outside could not shine to the bottom of the sinkhole. It was almost blocked by the miasma. Crack! A slight sound came from Xiao Xian's hand. The fire crystal, which could not be cut by a sharp blade made of high-quality stone, cracked. This also meant that the energy within the fire crystal was almost depleted. Xiao Xian turned his wrist and let the fragment in his hand fall to the ground. He told the bat leader in front of him that this one had been absorbed. At the same time, Xiao Xian thought in his heart, "Please don't find another one from the feces. Let me continue." The bat leader used its wings to push the fragments of the fire crystal on the ground, which had become inconspicuous. No one knew what it was thinking. After looking at it for a while, it stretched its wings and flew up. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared in front of Xiao Xian and others. When the bat leader left, Xiao Xian felt that the air here seemed to be fresher. The extremely dangerous sense of oppression from the bat leader was also much less. "It's gone." Ta came over and said. He held a piece of fire crystal in his hand and handed it to Ao. "I just picked it up over there." He wanted to ask for credit from his father, but before Ta finished his words, Ao grabbed the fire crystal from Ta's hand and threw it far away. "Ta, let's not think about the fire crystals here," Ao said. "Why?" Ta was anxious. Those were pieces of fire crystals. The bat leader knows what's going on. It won't let us take any piece from here. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will hunt us down. If it were just some ferocious beasts, even if they couldn't defeat them, Ao would take the risk to dig out all the fire crystals here. However, this bat was developing in the direction of a king beast. It could be regarded as a half-king beast. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been defeated so easily. If they were hunted down by such a guy, it would be a disaster. Ao didn't dare to take this risk. Many ferocious beasts in the forest were much smarter than people expected. I agree with the chief. Xiao Xian moved his sore arms and said, every piece of fire crystal here has the smell of that bat leader. Even if we take them back to the tribe, we will be tracked down. Ta was silent. He understood the reason, but he was unwilling to accept it. Fight? They couldn't beat it. Steal? They couldn't steal. So many fire crystals were almost at their fingertips, but they couldn't take them. Aggrieved. Chapter 220. Whether it was Ta, the team leader of the hunting team, or Ao, the chief of the tribe, they both knew how precious the fire crystals were. That was why they felt so conflicted. Their faces were twisted, and they resisted the temptation of the fire crystals. Ao suppressed all the emotions in his heart and said, let's go up first. Since the chief had spoken, the others had to do it even if they were unwilling. When they came out of the giant pit, the two moons in the night sky cast light on them, so that they could see the surrounding situation. Although the moonlight allowed them to see the objects around them, they were still used to lighting their torches. The chief is out. Team leader Ta is out too. Xian, are you all right? Those who were guarding outside the giant pit swarmed up. Among the 8 people who entered the giant pit, 7 were senior totem warriors, and 1 was a middle-level totem warrior. The first 7 were all injured, but the latter was the only one who was not injured. Some people attributed it to the protection of the 7 senior totem warriors, while others were confused. How could the 7 of them protect others when they were injured like this? Even if they were confused, they did not dare to ask when they saw the chief and team leaders' faces. It seems that things are not going well. Kiki whispered to Tua. 8 people went down, 7 were injured, and none of them brought out a piece of fire crystal. Everyone knew that things were not going well. There were many people who came this time, and they gathered around the giant pit. Fortunately, there was poisonous miasma everywhere, so other creatures did not dare to come here. Except for the vampire bats, no other creatures would appear. Therefore, from dusk to now, no dangerous ferocious beasts had come. The most dangerous one was not in the pit now. It's already night. Shall we find a cave to rest? But the mountain is full of poisonous miasma. We have to go down the mountain. Ta was talking when he found that Xiao Xian suddenly stopped and stood there. No one knew what he was thinking. Xian. Xiao Xian raised his head and saw that the people around were looking at him with doubts. He shook his head to show that he was fine, but he just thought of something. What did you think of? Ao asked. Xiao Xian looked at the foot of the mountain and then looked at the sinkhole at the top of the mountain. He said, I was thinking, if we can't dig from the sinkhole, can we start digging from the foot of the mountain? What do you mean? Tower was confused at first, but then his eyes lit up. Dig a hole. Just like the wild beasts in the forest who were good at digging holes, they could dig a long way from one place. Even if they couldn't dig at the top of the mountain, they could still dig a hole at the bottom of the mountain. If this was really a fire crystal mine, there must be some fire crystals that had not been dug out by the bat leader. That's right. We can dig holes. The leaders and team leaders, who had not wanted to give up until now, felt that this idea was feasible. Ao led his men down the mountain and found a suitable place. Let's start digging from here. This place was not covered by the poisonous miasma, so it was not within the range that the bat leader would pay attention to. They could dig without worry. Divide into 2 groups. Ta and Gigu, you lead your own team and take turns to dig and rest. Ao assigned the tasks. Yes. With hope, Ta and Gigu calmed down. Now they were full of energy and didn't care about their injuries. They just wanted to dig a hole that extended to the foot of the mountain and the sinkhole as soon as possible. Let Caesar help. He is good at digging holes. Xiao Xian said. Caesar's strength and claws were superior. Soon, he dug a vertical pit at the place chosen by Ao. Then, he dug from the pit toward the direction of the sinkhole. While Caesar was digging in that direction, the others were also tamping down the sides of the pit that they had dug in the beginning and building steps. The stone and soil that Caesar dug out also needed to be transported out. Xian, you take a rest first. They are enough here. Ao said to Xiao Xian. Although Xiao Xian was the only one among the 8 people who didn't seem to have any trauma, Ao felt that Xiao Xian might consume more energy than them. It also took a lot of physical strength to draw out the energy in the fire crystal. Looking at the progress of Caesar, Xiao Xian didn't refuse. Well, I will take a nap. Call me if you need me. Well, don't worry. Go to sleep. The bat leader should be looking for food. It won't come back for a while. We are not in its territory now, so it should be okay. Ao said. Xiao Xian really felt sleepy. He went to the side, leaned against the wall of the pit and closed his eyes. He planned to rest for a while, but when he opened his eyes again, the sky was already bright. He didn't know if it was because he had consumed too much energy yesterday. This night, Xiao Xian slept very soundly. All the movements around him seemed to be isolated. This sleep also made all the fatigue and muscle pain disappear. He felt very comfortable all over. Yangguang's light shone into his pupils through the slits of his eyes. Xiao Xian couldn't help but squint. He planned to rest for a while and then open his eyes again. But the next moment, he felt that something was wrong. It was strangely quiet around him. There was no sound of digging, no discussion, no sound of walking. Crackle. The sound of the firewood burning in the bonfire was very clear in the forest this morning. The surrounding area was filled with the smell of burnt meat. But it was not that there was no one here. Everyone was here, including Caesar and Cha-Cha. No one was missing. Xiao Xian could feel it. But none of them made a sound. But from their breathing, he could hear that their hearts were not calm. They were even extremely nervous. The frequency of their breathing seemed to be deliberate. It was not casual, and they didn't dare to be casual. It was as if they were facing a great enemy. As if they were facing a great enemy? Xiao Xian didn't care whether it was dazzling or not. He opened his eyes. Sensing something, Zhang Xian turned his head around, and the first thing he saw was a bizarrely large nose. Xiao Xian, damn you! Xiao Xian suddenly woke up. The bat leader was silently hanging upside down on the wall of the pit that had just been dug. It hung there steadily as if it was weightless. The bat's head was right next to Xiao Xian. Around them, Cha-Cha, who was standing on the edge of the pit, felt the hair on his neck stand up. Caesar wasn't much better. He bared his teeth and his whole body was tense. He looked like he was going to pounce over in the next moment. The people who were digging the hole, barbecuing the meat, and drinking water all stopped what they were doing. The people who were barbecuing the meat had already thrown away the meat skewers on the wooden sticks. They didn't even care that the meat was burnt. The people who were drinking water had already thrown the kettle aside, letting the clear water flow out of the kettle. Everyone was holding stone picks, knives, axes, and so on in their hands, nervously looking at the creature that had appeared here without any warning. The reason why they hadn't taken any action was that their leader, Ao, had signaled them not to act rashly. Only God knew how Ao's heart had trembled when he found that the bat leader had appeared here. He just drank some water. When he turned his head, he found that the bat leader had appeared there silently. He was so scared that he threw away the kettle. Ta, Gigu, Dai, Wei. Every one of them who had been beaten by the bat leader didn't react better than Ao when they saw this scene. Their hair almost stood up together with the hair on their backs. At this moment, everyone's expression was almost frozen. The slightly twitching muscles on their faces and the sweat coming out from their foreheads and arms, all showed their nervousness. The situation was so tense that it was on the verge of breaking out. Chapter 221. Xiao Xian stared at the bat leader hanging upside down next to him. After a few seconds of silence, he stood up. With Xiao Xian's movement, the stagnant atmosphere became more tense. The surrounding air seemed to be frozen, making it difficult to breathe. Everyone was worried that the bat leader hanging upside down there would suddenly launch an attack. It was not the ferocious beasts that they had hunted before. On the contrary, in front of it, everyone was prey. After Xiao Xian stood up, the bat leader's head also twisted a little with Xiao Xian's movement. It seemed that it did not notice the tense atmosphere around and was very calm. Suddenly seeing this guy, Xiao Xian was a little surprised. But now thinking about it, he was not too surprised. He was just startled when he just woke up. Anyone who opened their eyes and saw this scene would be frightened. It also wanted the fire crystals. However, the one that Xiao Xian always carried with him was gone. Now there was no one in his pocket. If the bat leader went crazy here, Xiao Xian could not stop it. Just as he was thinking about it, the bat leader moved. It flapped its wings and flew into the air from the upside-down position. The airflow caused by the flapping of its wings made the fire in the bonfire jump. Everyone's tense nerves were pulled tighter again, as if they would collapse in the next moment. However, the people nervously preparing for the battle, as well as Cha-Cha standing beside the pit and Caesar in an attacking posture, did not make the bat leader do anything. It did not even look at the people around it. With a flap of its wings, a black shadow flashed, like a sudden lightning, flashing and disappearing. At the same time, Xiao Xian, who had been standing there, also disappeared. Cha-Cha shouted and chased after it, followed by Caesar. "You wait here. I'll go and have a look." Leaving these words, Leader Ao also went to the giant pit. In yesterday's battle, among the 7 senior totem warriors who fell into the pit, Ao's injury was the lightest. Gigu and Dai's injuries were not good for them to fight again. It was futile to go there, and it would only increase the casualties. After all, they were not at the same level, and the strength gap was too big. When Ao rushed to the giant pit, Xiao Xian had been taken to the giant pit again. Although the bat leader had controlled its strength, its 2 hind claws still pierced Xiao Xian's animal skin coat. However, because he was wearing the insect skin caught in the ice field near the Eagle Mountain, his shoulder was not scratched, but it was not much better. Even if his bones were not broken and his skin did not bleed, he still felt a burning pain. To him. Flying to the bottom of the pit, the bat's claws loosened, and Xiao Xian fell forward due to inertia. If he had not reacted fast enough and stabilized himself, he would have fallen on the ground covered with humus and bat feces. It seemed that the bat leader knew that Xiao Xian had no fire crystals, so after it caught Xiao Xian, it walked around for a while, and then moved its folded wing claws to dig out a piece of fire crystal from the ground, and threw it to Xiao Xian. The fire crystal was thrown like a bullet. Xiao Xian did not directly catch it with his hands, but turned sideways to avoid it. If he caught it with his bare hands, not to mention whether his palms would be scratched, his wrist bones would probably be broken. In addition to the fire crystal, there were also clouds of humus and bat feces thrown out by the bat leader's claws. Xiao Xian also avoided them. After the fire crystal was shot into the wall of the pit, Xiao Xian went to dig it out. The bat leader seemed to be very angry that Xiao Xian avoided it. Black poisonous miasma was sprayed out from its nostrils and mouth, and the sound of the air flow was sharper than before. Xiao Xian looked at the fire crystal in his hand, which was about the same size as the one he carried with him yesterday. The difference was that this fire crystal had not been consumed at all, while the one he carried with him yesterday had been used a lot, so it could be consumed in half a day. Half a day was definitely not enough for this fire crystal. Even if his efficiency had improved a lot, he could not consume this fire crystal in such a short time. It could not be finished before nightfall. Xiao Xian thought. The voices of Cha-Cha and Caesar came from above the giant pit. They had arrived. This bat leader could break Cha-Cha's neck like a chicken, and Caesar was not much better. Before the bat leader took action, Xiao Xian bent his fingers and put them in his mouth, blowing a whistle that both Caesar and Cha-Cha knew, indicating that they should not come over and that he was fine. Listening to the movements above, and confirming that Caesar and Cha-Cha had not come down, Xiao Xian immediately began to stimulate the power in his body, making the fire crystal burn. In the special vision, Xiao Xian could see that on the fire crystal in his hand, there were traces of red lines. Some of the red lines came to him, and the other went to the bat leader. The bat leader, which was originally more than 10 meters away from Xiao Xian, felt the traces of energy, and came closer. Standing in front of such a semi-king level beast, Xiao Xian felt great pressure. Looking around, at the bottom of the giant pit, there was still some chaos, and all kinds of dirt could be seen everywhere. The only difference was that there was an extra body of a woolly mammoth. This should be the food brought back by the bat leader last night. It was hard to imagine how it transported the mammoth, which was several times larger than itself, here. In his impression, the mammoth's majestic and mighty body was now shriveled. It was casually thrown there, and the protruding bones were very obvious. In comparison, the two large tusks that curved forward in a spiral shape were more attractive. However, the bat leader was not interested in these tusks, bones and so on. All the corpses were just dried up, and the bones and teeth were still there. When Ao arrived at the giant pit, Cha-Cha and Caesar were wandering around the giant pit, and did not go down. He slid to the bottom of the giant pit along the place where he put down the grass vines yesterday, and saw the same situation as yesterday. Knowing that Xiao Xian was not hurt, Ao Xian was relieved. He felt a little helpless. After such a scare early in the morning, he still hadn't recovered from the shock. Xiao Xian also saw Ao at the bottom of the pit, and made a gesture, indicating that he was fine. Since Xiao Xian could perceive Ao's movement, the bat leader could naturally. However, it did not care at all, and did not take Ao seriously. At the moment, it was just concentrating on absorbing the energy from the fire crystal. But if Ao took away a piece of fire crystal here, it would not be so calm, and would kill directly. Ao would not take the fire crystal. After making sure that Xiao Xian was okay, he stayed aside and watched, in case of any accident. After a while, Ta also came down, because he saw that Caesar, Cha-Cha and Ao did not go back, so he came to inquire. You go back first, let the others continue, and I will keep an eye here. Ao lowered his voice and said to Ta. He looked at Xiao Xian, then at his own father. Ta nodded and passed Ao a spear. You be careful too. As Xiao Xian expected, from morning until night, the fire crystal in his hand cracked with a ka sound. Seeing the cracked fire crystal, the bat leader did not stay here any longer. It flapped its wings and flew out of the giant pit to look for food. Xiao Xian breathed a long sigh of relief, and quickly left the giant pit with Ao, who was guarding beside him. Xiao Xian was fine, because he had the fire crystal to replenish his physical strength, but Ao could not. Even if he brought the herbs, he was a little dispirited because of the poisonous miasma in the giant pit. He felt better after leaving the giant pit. Xiao Xian did not eat anything since morning, so he was mentally tired and his stomach was empty, which made Xiao Xian look no better than Ao. Back to the place where the hole was dug, Xiao Xian ate several pieces of meat, and then fell asleep tiredly. The next day, as usual. But this time, before Xiao Xian woke up, the bat leader directly grabbed Xiao Xian and took him away. Just like the day before, Ao went over to guard. On the other side, Ta and Gigu led people to hurry up with the work. They thought that they should dig the hole as soon as possible and leave after digging out the fire crystals. On the third day, before the bat leader took Xiao Xian away, someone was too nervous and triggered the traps set around the hole. The traps were originally set to guard against the ferocious beasts that came out to look for food at night, but now, it became a thunder drum that shocked everyone. The stone arrowhead was shot in the direction of the bat leader. With a clang, it hit the bat leader's wings, as if it hit hard metal. The stone arrowhead fell to the ground, but the bat's wings were not hurt at all. However, the situation was getting more and more tense. Being stabbed like this was not a big deal for the bat leader, but it could be regarded as a provocation. It was a little angry, but it did not directly attack the people around it. Instead, it screamed towards the hole dug by the people, and the result of 2 days' work collapsed. Ao and the two team leaders saw the collapsed hole, and their faces turned green. Ao also went over to look around the collapsed hole. It was not convenient to continue digging here, and they had to find another place. How annoying! However, even if they were so angry that they had internal bleeding, they could do nothing about it. They could not beat it, could not scold it, and could not provoke it. They had to endure whatever they did. After all, the Bat Leader was strong. Fortunately, the Bat Leader did not intend to attack them directly. If such a ferocious beast at the half-king level went to the tribe, they would not be able to cry even if they wanted to. Fortunately, there were fire seeds in the tribe. Where there were fire seeds, these ferocious beasts would always be afraid of them. However, after this incident, how could they really get rid of the half-king level Bat Leader? This was Ao's worry. Let's do this first. Let's get the fire crystals first. I think that although the Bat Leader needs the fire crystals, it has a limit like the totem warriors. It will not absorb the fire crystals endlessly, but it has not reached that limit yet. Xiao Xian said. That's the only way. Xian, thank you for your hard work. Ao said with guilt. Before he came, he told the shaman that he would protect Xiao Xian, but now? It's okay. Anyway, it didn't hurt me. It just wanted to absorb the fire crystals. Moreover, I think that if we take good care of it, it may be good for us in the future. Xiao Xian said. Ao knew that Xiao Xian was comforting him. He pulled up the corners of his mouth, but he still could not smile. King-level beasts were not like other ferocious beasts. They were arrogant and difficult to get along with. It was impossible for them to be as obedient as the beasts and ferocious beasts raised by the tribe. If they were careless and angered it, the consequences would be unimaginable. For the fire crystals, they had to endure it. Chapter 222. Because of the Bat Leader's attack, the hole they had dug was ruined and they had to start from scratch. While they were digging the hole again, Ao sent someone back to the tribe and told the shaman about what had happened here. Ao did not let anyone pass on the details of Xiao Xian, the fire crystal and the half-king level Bat Leader. Instead, he peeled off a piece of animal skin and wrote on it. He wrote down what had happened here in detail, tied it with a straw rope, and asked the people of the Hui tribe to bring it to the shaman. He needed to ask the shaman about some things before he could make a decision. Ao was not worried that the people of the Hui tribe would secretly open the animal skin roll and read what was written inside. Without permission, the people of the Hui tribe would not read it at will. Ao still had this confidence and also trusted the people of the Hui tribe. When the warriors of the Hui tribe came back, they also brought the shaman's reply. Ao went to a place where no one was around, opened the animal skin roll and read the content written by the shaman. He thought that the shaman would write a lot of things, telling them how to deal with the half-king level Bat Leader. Unexpectedly, after opening the animal skin roll, Ao only saw one sentence, "Ask Xian." If he did not know that the shaman had chosen Gui Zhe to take over, Ao would have thought that the successor chosen by the shaman was Xiao Xian. Could it be that the shaman wanted Xian to be the next chief? Ao could not help thinking. No, it should not be. With Ao's understanding of the shaman, he knew that if the shaman wanted to cultivate Xiao Xian to be the chief, it would not be like this. Ao shook his head. Since he could not guess the purpose of the shaman, Ao did not think more. At this time, it was better to focus on the things at hand. Days passed, and the hole they dug again had reached the foot of the mountain. It would take them 2 or 3 more days to reach the bottom of the giant pit. At that time, they would know whether there were fire crystals under the giant pit as Xiao Xian said. During this time, everyone was less afraid of the Bat Leader because it had not appeared here for several days. Xiao Xian would take the initiative to go to the sinkhole early in the morning and did not need it to come again. 10 days later, Xiao Xian consumed the fire crystals faster and faster. Using his special vision, he could see that the red energy lines coming out of the fire crystals were much denser than before. This also meant that the energy of the fire crystals was coming out faster. Sometimes, Xiao Xian was able to return to the foot of the mountain before sunset and meet up with the others. Caesar was also called over by Xiao Xian to help the others dig the hole. During this time in the sinkhole, Xiao Xian slowly figured out the bottom line of this Bat Leader. As long as he didn't take away the fire crystals from the crater, it wouldn't get angry. During the time when Xiao Xian was consuming the fire crystals, he also cut off the 2 big tusks of the woolly mammoth and the giant horns of several giant deer, but it ignored him. This day, when the fire crystals were consumed, the bat leader didn't fly away to look for food. Before Xiao Xian left, it flapped its wings and drove Xiao Xian out of the giant pit. Before leaving the giant pit, Xiao Xian saw that more dense black fog was coming out of its mouth and nostrils. In the giant pit, from the bottom, because of the deeper black fog, it gradually became as black as ink. At this time, even if Ao went in with the herbs, he couldn't bear it. The black fog came out from the top of the giant pit and spread from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain. Even some of the poisonous grasses and herbs with high poison resistance living on the mountain died. This mountain is completely impossible to enter. Ao looked at the black spreading mountain and said, "Fortunately, we dug a hole from here." Ta was very emotional. The place where they dug the hole was not surrounded by the black fog. After digging the hole, they didn't need to touch the black fog and poisonous miasma on the surface of the mountain. Even if the poisonous miasma had penetrated into the soil and mountain stones, not much of it reached the hole, so everyone could bear it. "Is it going to transform again?" Gigu asked. "Very likely," Ao said. King Beast, the bat leader, was one step closer to becoming a king beast. "Why don't we take this opportunity to?" Ta held the knife in his hand and made a chopping gesture. Ao, Gigu, and Dai raised their heads and looked at Ta as if he was an idiot. The expression on Ta's face froze, and he probably realized how stupid he had just said. Not to mention whether they could bear the black fog and go in. When the leaders of the 5 hunting groups met the bat leader in the bat cave, it hadn't transformed yet, but it could move freely with its shell. Mai and the others couldn't find its trace at all, which showed the gap in strength. Now, the bat leader had been promoted to a higher level, not to mention it. Even if it was not a king beast, it had taken a big step toward becoming one. Slaughter? How difficult it was. If they were not careful, they would be slaughtered. Thinking about it made their necks cold. They were about to return to the old land. Ao didn't want to take this risk, and he didn't dare to take it. The shaman said that they would face more people and more powerful warriors in the future, not ferocious beasts, let alone king beasts. But if we can't kill it, when it wakes up, it will be more powerful. Will it chase us to the tribe? Dai was worried. With the fire seed, it should not. Ao said. Their trust in the fire seed was stronger than anything else. If there were ferocious beasts attacking them, and the people in the tribe couldn't resist, the shaman could drive them away with the help of the fire seed. Dai was still worried. If we go back to the old land, it will be better. But if we don't go back, it will come out to hunt. Won't it pose a threat to the hunting group and slaughter the warriors? No. Xiao Xian said, as long as we don't provoke it, it won't slaughter the hunting warriors. Why? Gigu was a little confused about Xiao Xian's answer. Why was Xiao Xian so sure? Intuition. Xiao Xian said. Xiao Xian had a secret. Gigu and Ta all knew it, and Ao also knew it, but he didn't want to tell them. So, the question ended here. Didn't you see the chief's warning eyes? When they were talking here, there came a voice of ecstasy from the cave. It was Keek's loud voice. Boss! Chief! Kiki rushed out of the cave, and the smile on his face squeezed his eyes. Out! Dug it out! Fire crystal, there is a fire crystal. Really? Let me see. Ao couldn't sit still and bounced up from the ground like a spring. Kiki held a small piece of fire crystal in his hand. It was only the size of the fingernail of the little finger, but it was undoubtedly a fire crystal. There were some mud and stone chips on the fire crystal, which meant it had just been dug out. Ao carefully took the small piece of fire crystal, put it in the palm of his hand, and wiped off the dust on the surface. Under Yang Guang's hand, the fiery red color seemed to burn everything it touched. It wasn't like the humus and bat feces in the giant pit. This one didn't have the smell of bats, so it was regarded as an ownerless object. Whoever dug it out could have it. Good. 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 Ao said good 3 times in a row, and laughed out loud. Without the interference of the bat leader, and with the fire crystal dug out, the depression during this time was completely gone. Ao laughed so hard that his chest shook. Excited. Excited. Carefree. Dad, let me see, let me see. It was rare for Ta to call Ao in this way in front of others. Usually, when there were others, he called Ao chief. Ao wanted to show the fairness of a chief. He couldn't get more advantages just because Ta was his son. But now Ta didn't care. He called Ao out because he wanted to let Ao know that his son was still waiting. Let Ao see it first. However, Ao didn't understand his son's mood. He closed his 5 fingers and held the fire crystal. Is there any more? Ao asked Kiki. There should be more. Kiki scratched his head. He wasn't sure. He just came to report the good news after digging out the fire crystal. Let's go inside and have a look. Ao couldn't wait to walk into the cave with others. Xiao Xian was the last. Before entering the cave, he looked up at the mountain covered with black fog and the ink-like top of the mountain. Xian, come here. Kiki urged in the cave. Coming. Looking back from the mountain, Xiao Xian walked into the cave. Chapter 223. Under the giant pit, there was indeed a place similar to the fire crystal mine. After Kiki, someone dug out another fire crystal. The morale, which had been low for more than 10 days, was suddenly lifted. What was the purpose of coming here? Wasn't it just to dig out more fire crystals? Since they couldn't dig out the fire crystals in the giant pit, they could dig out the fire crystals here. Besides, the bat leader was in closed-door training, so they didn't have to worry about anything. They dug hard, thinking that they could dig out as much as they could while the bat leader was away. Another 6 days passed. The fire crystals, big and small, had filled a bag, and this was only a part of them. Xiao Xian estimated that there was still about half of them. These fire crystals were enough for all the warriors in the tribe. Seeing Ao open a roll of animal skin, Ta wiped the sweat on his face and asked, "What did the shaman say?" After finding the fire crystals, Ao wrote another roll of animal skin for the shaman and asked someone to take it to the shaman. The joy of finding the fire crystals faded a little from Ao's face, and he looked a little serious. No one is allowed to disclose the fire crystals. During the break, Ao called everyone over and ordered them not to tell others the location of the fire crystals, the process of finding them and how much they dug out. The last time the 5 hunting groups came here, they found the fire crystals in the giant pit. But this time, they dug an underground tunnel under the giant pit to the foot of the mountain, which needed to be kept secret. If they didn't go back to the old place, it didn't matter, because it was theirs anyway. But then they would definitely go back to the old place. Once someone told people in other tribes about this, it would bring a lot of trouble, and even a war. The fewer people knew, the better. Fortunately, this time they brought people from the advance group. They knew and understood these people well, so they trusted them. It was time to go hunting, and they needed to go back to the tribe. Ao didn't take all of them back, but left some people here to keep digging. He took the other people and the fire crystals to meet with the hunting group, and then went back to the tribe. Xiao Xian wanted to stay, in case the bat leader suddenly came out, but Ao refused. The shaman asked you to go back. Xiao Xian didn't insist. If the shaman wanted him to go back, he must have something to tell him. When the hunting team returned to the tribe, all the people in the tribe knew that the chief had brought people to look for the fire crystals. It was impossible to keep it a secret, as long as they did not tell them the specific location. Fortunately, many people in the tribe were obedient. If the chief and the shaman didn't say anything, they wouldn't ask. For them, it was a great fortune to have the fire crystals. They didn't need to care about other things. The entire tribe was overflowing with joy. Recently, there had been a lot of good news. They had returned to their old haunt, and now they had the fire crystals. Everything made them happy for a long time. At the top of the mountain, inside the shaman's stone house, the chief, the 2 team leaders, and several elders who had more authority in the tribe all gathered here. Xiao Xian was also there. In the past, Xiao Xian was not qualified to attend such meetings. But now, no one had any objection. Sometimes, when making some decisions, they would ask for Xiao Xian's opinion. After all, Xiao Xian was the only one who went to the old haunt and came back. He knew much more than those who stayed here all the time. The tribe will let everyone absorb the fire crystals during the sacrifice ceremony next year. The shaman said, but before the sacrifice ceremony, we can't relax. They couldn't put down other things just because of the fire crystals. Moreover, how much they could absorb depended on their state and ability. Those who had many hidden injuries, those who had not recovered from serious diseases, and those who were malnourished, it was better to adjust their body to the best state before the sacrifice ceremony. This time, it was not a matter of one person or a few people. It was related to the whole tribe. Everyone, from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain, had to pay attention to it. Ao nodded, looked at Ta and Gigu, and said, I will take people to the Green Land and try to bring back as many herbs as possible. Many injuries of totem warriors couldn't be healed by themselves, so they had to rely on herbs. Ordinary herbs were not very effective, so they had to use the ones in the Green Land. Leave the fire crystals with me first. The shaman asked Xiao Xian, who had been sitting on the side and had been silent, Xian, what do you want to say? When I was there, I found that many people had their own ways to find the fire crystals. If we take a lot of fire crystals there, we will be like living targets. Probably before we reach the old haunt, we will be consumed by waves of people, especially those from the central tribes. They are not weaker than us. Hearing this, everyone, including the chief, was shocked. They looked at Xiao Xian, waiting for him to continue. I know that some people use jade boxes to store the fire crystals, which can block all kinds of detection. But, Xiao Xian pointed to the big bag of fire crystals on the stone table in the middle, and said, we don't have enough jade boxes to store the fire crystals. Besides, jade is also very precious there. No one had found a jade mine around, and no one had ever seen jade. It was the ones brought back by Xiao Xian that made people have a preliminary understanding. The shaman smiled, don't worry about this. Saying this, the shaman took out a wooden box, which also contained fire crystals. At that time, it would be inappropriate to wear the old clothes at the sacrificial ceremony. He would be laughed at, and his strength would be regarded as stagnant. The shaman asked Xiao Xian to be one of the members of the sacrificial dance, not only because of Xiao Xian's contribution to the tribe. In the year when Xiao Xian was away, fewer people awakened their totem power at the sacrificial ceremony. In addition, the shaman tried to engrave 2 beasts, but they both failed. The warriors who raised the beasts thought it was their own problem. They didn't raise the beasts well, so the engraving failed. But the shaman knew that he was the main reason. When he engraved the beasts, he wasn't as good as when he engraved the first batch of beasts. Halfway through the engraving, he felt powerless. One of the beasts didn't even have a totem. The shaman thought that Xiao Xian was also the reason. When Xiao Xian was there, the situation would be much better. Of course, the shaman wouldn't tell Xiao Xian about this. But every time he thought about it, the shaman wished he could go to the fire pit and kowtow to his ancestors, to vent his depression. How could such a talent not be a shaman? Xiao Xian didn't know about the shaman's depression at all. He went to find Ao, and decided to go to the Green Land with him. Before returning to the old haunt, he wanted to find more herbs. One reason was to prepare for the future. When he returned to the old haunt, there would be many places to use herbs. But when he arrived at the old haunt, he wouldn't be able to adapt completely in a short time. He didn't know the geography of the old haunt, so it would be difficult to find good herbs. And the other reason was because of Old Ku. Old Ku was old. Before the sacrificial ceremony, he wanted to give him more nourishment. The better he was during the sacrificial ceremony, the more fire crystals he could absorb. It would be good for Old Ku in the future. In other tribes, disabled people like Old Ku didn't live well. Xiao Xian only hoped that he could improve as much as possible. Before the winter came, the entrance to the fire crystal cave was blocked, and the surroundings were covered. No one could see that there was a tunnel there. After 2 or 3 years, it would be even more difficult to see. Before the winter, Xiao Xian prepared a lot of food for the children in the cave. In the past 2 years, the kids who came out of the mountain cave would bring something to the kids in the mountain cave before winter every year. Now, the kids in the mountain cave had caught fish and meat sent by others, so they were much stronger than before. If they were well nourished, their chances of awakening would be higher. Chapter 224. The winter in the tribe was still filled with endless snowflakes and extremely cold weather. Yan Ji and the others were on the mountain. In such weather, they couldn't survive alone. Fortunately, they were taken care of. The people in the tribe had never looked forward to the end of winter so much. In the ritual ceremony after the end of winter, not only the newly arrived tribesmen who had been living outside would participate in the awakening, but also the fire crystals, which the tribe was looking forward to the most. The warriors rubbed their palms and didn't forget to exercise in winter. Even if they couldn't run far, many people moved stones at home to practice. They wanted to be in the best state during the ritual ceremony. They didn't want to be weak after winter. Xiao Xian often ran up the mountain. The shaman and the chief had been planning to go back to the old land. Every time, they would call Xiao Xian to go there. When he was free, Xiao Xian would go to the medicine house to help the Guizhe sort out the herbs. The tortoise in the medicine house, which was responsible for dealing with the dregs of herbs, had grown a lot. Its shell was 2 meters high. It was unknown whether it was because of the successful engraving or because it often ate herbs, but the tortoise grew faster and stronger. The ridges on its shell were more prominent. It looked more difficult to deal with it than the crocodiles of the drumming tribe. Every time Xiao Xian went there, the tortoise would bite Xiao Xian, but every time, it would be slapped aside by Xiao Xian with a knife. When the moon came out again after winter, the tribe was excited. Old Ku, who had been taken care of for a whole winter, looked radiant and healthy, and looked much younger. On the day of the ritual ceremony, Xiao Xian took out the fur of the giant bear he had hunted last year. This was what he would wear in the ritual dance. In order to hunt this giant bear, Xiao Xian had chased it for more than 10 days. Have you prepared the clothes? Have you gotten rid of the worms on the bear skin? Yes. Hey, Old Ku, don't you need to get rid of the bear claws? They are in the way. Wearing the bear claw gloves, Xiao Xian couldn't see where the fingers were. Anyone who looked at it would see the black bear claws. No. Claws are awesome. Okay. And the bear tooth necklace. Don't forget this. Old Ku quickly put the bear tooth necklace on Xiao Xian's neck. The big white carrot-like bear teeth were strung together. It looked a little weird to wear it on the neck. Even a slender neck wouldn't be able to support such a thick necklace. This was not unexpected among the tribe's living beings. Then I'll go up the mountain first. You can go up with Caesar later. Cha-cha, find a place to play by yourself. Don't go too far. Xiao Xian shouted at the eagle in the sky. All right, hurry up and go up the mountain. Maybe the shamaness and the leader have something to tell you. Xiao Xian was chased out of the house by Old Ku and walked up the mountain. Today, everyone was dressed to the nines. If one didn't look carefully, one wouldn't be able to recognize who was who. Although he had participated in many sacrificial ceremonies, Xiao Xian still couldn't help but feel like he was at a gathering of wild beasts every time. Looking around, there were people wearing leather, horns, bone ornaments, snakeskin belts, animal bone masks. There were all kinds of people. When he went up the mountain, Xiao Xian met Yan Ji and the others, who were looking around eagerly. Yan Ji and the others, who had participated in this kind of ceremony for the first time, were quite reserved, but they couldn't hide the excitement on their faces. So awesome! They hadn't awakened, so naturally they didn't have their own sacrificial animal clothes. What they were wearing now were just ordinary animal skins, which were given to them by the tribe to keep them warm. Xiao Xian waved his bear claws to Yan Ji and the others, and greeted them. The bear claws on the bear paw gloves were too big and troublesome. However, the tribe was looking at these troublesome things today, so Xiao Xian couldn't take them off. Yan Ji and the others looked at Xiao Xian's clothes with envy. So nice. Are you talking about Xian? You haven't seen the thorn black wind leather clothes he used to wear. I still think that one looks more awesome. A passerby joked. The giant bear was not worse than the thorn black wind, but the thorns on the thorn black wind's body were indeed more ferocious than the bear's skin. Don't envy others. When you awaken, you can go hunting with the hunting team, and then you can have your own sacrificial animal clothes. The man said. Can we also hunt something like Xian's clothes in the future? Jiao Wu clenched his fist. It depends on your strength. After all, there are few people like Xian. No matter what, you have to awaken first. Yes. They were going to awaken and become real totem warriors. This year, they were wearing clothes prepared for them by others, so they couldn't compare with others. But next year, the year after that, and every year after that, they would wear the best trophies they had hunted to participate in the ceremony of the tribe. Xiao Xian first went to the shaman, and together with the others who were going to perform the sacrificial dance, they painted lines on their faces, and then went to the fire pit. There are many people who are going to awaken this year. Xiao Xian said. Yes, last year 7 people failed to awaken. This year, including Yan Ji and the others, there are more than 100. Tua put on the animal bone mask and said. Just now, he had taken off the mask to paint lines on his face, and now he put it on. The animal bone mask was made by cutting off the head of a ferocious beast, boiling it, and removing the skin and flesh, leaving only the bones and the teeth in the mouth. Those sharp teeth were also the most important part. It was recognized in the tribe that the best animal bone mask could not have broken teeth, not to mention that the sacrificial dancers had higher requirements. Xiao Xian could only see Tuo's face through the mouth of sharp teeth. The night gradually fell. The whole mountain and all the people of the tribe had gathered at the top of the mountain. After the chief finished speaking, the shaman walked to the fire pit. The shaman chanted the incantation. In the fire pit, the fire seed that was originally like a small flame suddenly rolled up and filled the entire fire pit with a boom. This situation was much more intense than before. Not to mention the other people around, even the shaman was stunned and stopped for a moment. The music sounded, and the sacrificial dancers started to work. Xiao Xian, who was wearing a thick bearskin, jumped up and danced with the well-dressed people around him, baring their teeth and brandishing their claws. While dancing, Xiao Xian once again entered the mysterious state that seemed to be separated from reality. He seemed to see the barbaric and exaggerated people around the fire pit, waving their hands and feet, dancing around the fire pit. Around them, further away, there were tall stone houses, the flame in the fire pit doubled again, and the two-horned totem in the flame seemed to rush out. The whole mountain top was covered with a layer of fiery light. The flames that flew out of the fire pit were denser than any other time before. At the same time, in another place far away from the Yanjiao tribe, in the old land of the Yanjiao tribe, where the fire pit used to be, the fire vein appeared again. First, there was a shining light spot in the center, and then, from this light spot, there were 6 fiery veins, extending in 6 directions. The birds nesting in the surrounding trees, who had just fallen asleep, were awakened. Flocks of birds flew out of their nests, screaming cha-cha, and flew away in the direction away from the fire pit. A nocturnal ferocious beast, who had just stepped into this area, growled and turned around to leave quickly. On the ground, where the fire vein spread, the bloodthirsty vines that had captured countless creatures struggled weakly and quickly withered. Following the departure of the flying birds and insects, this place was completely silent. There was no music, no dancers, and no one. Under the dark night sky, only the fire veins on the ground lit up the ruins. Chapter 225. In the Wanshur tribe. In the witch's house. The door where the skull of a beast was hanging was pulled open. The witch, with colorful totem patterns on his face, walked out, sweating. He hurried to the chief's house. The chief of the Wanshur tribe was enjoying being served by the female captives he caught last year. He was unhappy to be disturbed by the witch. "What's the matter?" The witch rushed in, panting, and said, "There's a change in the fearsome beast forest." The Wanshur chief suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes became as sharp as a poisoned knife. "Are you sure?" What happened in the fearsome beast forest last year made the Wanshur chief feel like he had been slapped in the face. It was always their tribe that slaughtered, invaded, bullied, and robbed others. Before that, he had never felt so frustrated. Every time he thought of that, he felt like someone was waiting to slap him in the face. He also strictly forbade anyone from talking about it. It would damage the reputation of the Wanshur tribe. No one was allowed to mention it. Anyone who mentioned it would be killed. So far, he had killed more than 10 people who talked too much. That incident was a thorn in the Wanshur chief's throat that he could not pull out. But because of the previous casualties, he did not send anyone to the fearsome beast forest. "I'm sure." Just now, that ominous feeling was very strong. "I felt." The Wanshur shaman's tone was unsteady. He could hear his heart beating faster than usual. "What did you feel?" "I felt." Looking into the chief's bloody eyes, the Wanshur shaman lowered his head and said nothing. "Speak." The Wanshur shaman took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Suppression of the fire seed." The air in the house suddenly froze. The few women who had been serving their leader with a smile just now were now trembling like a sieve, but they didn't make a single sound, for fear that they would be noticed because of the sound they made. They had been serving their leader for some time now and were familiar with her temper. At this moment, the leader was extremely angry. They didn't know that the Wanshur chief was not only angry, but also scared. These two emotions mixed together and made him lose focus for a moment. But then he came back to his senses and smashed the wooden table beside him into pieces. The violent totem power made the evil spirit around him stronger and stronger. His red eyes looked at the women who were huddled around him. The people patrolling near the leader's house suddenly heard screams and screams coming from the leader's house. Soon, the screams stopped abruptly. Bang! The wooden door was kicked open from the inside out and shattered into pieces. A man covered in blood walked out of the house in large strides. Every step he took was like a hammer pounding on the hearts of the patrolling guards, causing them to breathe carefully. They were worried that their leader would take his anger out on them. Fortunately, the chief of the Wanshur tribe didn't pay attention to them. He strode away, heading for the fire pit. After the Wanshur chief, the Wanshur shaman also came out. His face was expressionless. When he passed by the guards, he paused and said to them, "Clean up the house." "Yes." The patrolman replied. They knew what the shaman meant by things in the house. After the chief and the shaman left, the patrolman walked into the house and cleaned up the bloodstains and mutilated corpses. It was not the first time that they had dealt with such things. They didn't care about the blood in the house at all. While cleaning up, they whispered to each other about why the chief was so angry. When the Wanshur chief came to the fire pit, he was terrified when he saw the fire that was smaller than usual. Although the shaman told him about it, he couldn't control his emotions when he saw it with his own eyes. The Wanshur shaman stood 10 steps away from the chief. Based on his understanding of the chief, he would be in trouble if he stood too close to him. "Gather the people. I want to go to the ferocious beast's mountain forest in person." With these words, the pebbles at the Wanshur chief's feet were all broken into pieces. For the people of the Wanshur tribe, it was not a peaceful night. The chief was angry, and everyone was trembling with fear. They heard that they would go to the ferocious beast's mountain forest tomorrow, which made them even more worried. They wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. On the other side, the Yanjiao tribe was immersed in the joy of the sacrifice. They didn't know what kind of people would come to their old haunt. They were absorbing the energy of the fire crystals. The 3 flames of the fire pit had been completed. Looking at the 3rd flame, the shaman said it was good luck. In the past, after the 3 flames of the fire pit were completed, the sacrifice would come to an end. After the chief and the shaman announced something, they would disperse and go home. But today, after the 3rd flame, the fire in the fire pit was taken back. The shaman took out the fire crystals that everyone had been waiting for. After waiting for a whole winter, the time finally came. Every totem warrior was absorbing the energy released from the fire pit and integrating it into their bodies. This situation didn't happen every year. Except for those who hadn't awakened their totem power, Xiao Xian was the most relaxed one. The energy of the fire crystals didn't have a direct effect on his improvement. However, in order not to stand out too much, he still stayed with the others. Unlike the others, he didn't absorb the energy. Instead, he was thinking about the mysterious state when he performed the sacrificial dance. What he saw at that time should be the prosperity of the Yanjiao tribe, not the current scene. That scene was similar to what he saw in the old haunt. The old haunt, when the tribe went back with the fire seed, there should be more changes there. When the fire crystals in the fire pit were used up, it was almost dawn. Everyone absorbed different amounts of fire crystal energy. Some absorbed more, some absorbed less. Some absorbed faster, some slower. The faster ones didn't leave after absorbing all the fire crystal energy. Instead, they urged the totem power in their bodies to digest the absorbed energy and fuse it with the fire crystal energy. Some people who were close to the breakthrough point were promoted to a new level on the spot. The young warriors couldn't restrain the joy on their faces when they saw the totem tattoos extending over their elbows. But because the sacrifice was not over, they didn't dare to make a sound. They could only try to hold back their laughter, clenching their teeth and fists. Their faces were distorted. The shaman glanced at them and smiled. After announcing the end of the sacrifice, everyone left one after another. Those who had a good relationship with each other would talk more tonight and celebrate together. After a few days, when they are stable, summarize the situation and report it to me. The chief said to the people next to him. Yes. The 100 totem warriors who were going to awaken their totem power tonight, including Yan Ji and the others, all succeeded in awakening their totem power and becoming totem warriors. Jiao Wu almost couldn't hold back his laughter and began to cry. Yan Ji, Yan Shua and the others also had tears in their eyes. The children next to them didn't understand why these people, who were older than them, were crying. Although it was very proud to awaken their totem power and become totem warriors, they didn't need to be so excited. The shaman didn't say anything and asked people to take these new warriors to the side. Tonight, he had to teach these new warriors a lesson. Let's go, Xian. Old Ku sat on the wolf's back and shouted at the edge of the top of the mountain. Coming. Xiao Xian looked away from the fire pit and towards Old Ku and Caesar. Have you been promoted? Old Ku patted his wrist. He was asking Xiao Xian if he could be promoted from an intermediate totem warrior to a senior totem warrior. The totem tattoos on the arms of senior totem warriors could go over their wrists. Because Xiao Xian was wearing a sacrificial animal costume, Old Ku couldn't see the totem tattoos on his arms, so he asked. Xiao Xian shook his head. Old Ku's expectant eyes dimmed, but then he smiled and said, "It's okay, take your time." Old Ku just saw that many people had been promoted by one level tonight. In his opinion, Xiao Xian was a very excellent and talented warrior, so he should be promoted by a lot. But when he saw Xiao Xian shake his head, he was worried that Xiao Xian would think too much and be too depressed, so he put aside his disappointment and comforted Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian smiled and didn't say anything. When they went down the mountain, Xiao Xian was stopped by Lang Jie and the others. Many people in the hunting group had been promoted by a lot, and Mai had directly become a senior totem warrior. Everyone was happy. As the leader of the hunting group, Mai waved his hand and called all the warriors in the hunting group together to celebrate. And Xiao Xian, who was the biggest contributor, naturally couldn't be left out. You go. Old Ku smiled and his eyes narrowed. He patted Xiao Xian's shoulder, and then patted Caesar's head. Let's go back first. After a winter's rest and recuperation, plus the fire seed energy and fire crystal energy he absorbed during the ritual ceremony, Old Ku now felt that he had returned to the time when he was young. He was full of strength, and the improvement of his body was very obvious. Although he had lost a leg, he could walk down the mountain easily with a crutch. However, Old Ku didn't walk. He rode on a wolf, and under the disdainful eyes of Gu and other old acquaintances, he slowly went down the mountain while humming the hunting song. Before the first hunting this year, the shaman and the chief got the statistics, and the result made them very happy. Originally, there were only more than 10 senior totem warriors, and 2 of them were old warriors. Compared with the young and middle-aged warriors, their fighting strength was naturally inferior. But this time, there were 20 more young and middle-aged senior totem warriors. According to the report, although many people didn't succeed in the breakthrough, they were close to the turning point. It was believed that they were not far away from the breakthrough. Good. Very good. In order to go back to the old land, the shaman and the chief naturally hoped that there would be more powerful warriors in the tribe. After all, when they went there, they would have to face more challenges, from people and ferocious beasts. Only with more powerful strength could they go back and stand firm. How's the ship building? The chief asked the warrior next to him. Still trying. The warrior reported the progress of the ship building to the chief and the shaman. It's too slow. Ao said. Because they were looking forward to going back to the old land, naturally they were not satisfied with the current progress. It's not urgent. The shaman said. However, even though he said that, his next sentence was to discuss with the leader whether or not they should dig a large pool near the training ground, the kind that didn't have wood-eating insects. It would be good for the shipbuilders to test the ships that they built. After all, it was related to the fate of the entire tribe. Digging a big pool was not a small project. Choosing a place, digging a hole, drawing water, and other processes were not easy. However, Ao agreed without hesitation. Chapter 226. The chief and the shaman said that they were going to dig a big pool. Everyone worked hard to dig. When the hunting warriors went out, some people stayed in the tribe to dig. Some people who had trouble walking also went to help. Many women in the tribe who had not awakened their totem power also went to help. After the first hunt, Xiao Xian returned to the tribe. They had already dug a big pit of more than 400 square meters, and they were still digging. At the foot of the mountain, some children from the cave were helping to boil the gelatin. A 20-meter-long wooden boat was placed there. Yan Ji and the others were busy filling the seams. This was only the first boat they tested. There were 2 bigger boats next to it, but they were not finished yet. Xiao Xian picked up the tools and went to help. How is it going? Xiao Xian asked. Before the rainy season, these 3 boats will be finished. At that time, we will try these 3 boats. If they were successful, they would try to build bigger boats. As the shaman said, the boats they built were important to the people of the tribe. The quality of the boats had to be good. Otherwise, they would be hit by fish in the river and leak. How was the hunting? Jiao Wu couldn't help but ask. Not bad. Xiao Xian followed the advance group to the green land. This time, they found a kind of curly-tailed herb and hunted a lot of prey on the way. They were satisfied with the harvest. We are going to go hunting too. Jiao Wu said. Yes, but not until next time. Xiao Xian said. Yan Ji and the others were the same as most of the new warriors. They would not follow the first 2 hunts, and would go out with the advance group on the 3rd hunt. However, because of their special status, they would definitely send someone to protect them. When we leave, you will take care of this place. Yan Ji said to Xiao Xian. Don't worry. Yan Ji and the others and Xiao Xian would not go hunting at the same time. In this way, they could ensure that there would be someone watching over the boat every time. The Yanjiao tribe dug a hole and directly dug a lake. Even the longboat tribe's fleet would have a large space inside. The warriors who dug the lake didn't think it was big enough. If it weren't for the fact that they were surrounded by mountains, which made it difficult to dig, they would have dug even more. During the rainy season, water would be stored here. When the rainy season was over and there were no wood-eating insects in the river, the water would be brought here. From the lake to the river, a waterway nearly 10 meters wide was dug. This made it easier for the boats in the lake to travel directly to the river. Under Xiao Xian's suggestion and guidance, a sluice gate was built near the mouth of the river. The sluice gate would be closed except for the period after the end of the rainy season. The lake and waterway have been dug. We're just waiting for the rainy season to come. During the rainy season, the lake would be filled with water from the river. Unfortunately, we can't go back this year. Lang Jie looked at the dug lake and waterway and said, if it weren't for the insects in the river, we wouldn't have to spend so much effort to dig the lake. We could just put the boat in the river and try it. There's no other way. Let's wait until next year. It should be possible next year. While the people of the Yanjiao tribe were busy, on the other side of the river, in the old place of the Yanjiao tribe, in the Ferocious Beasts Mountain Forest, the chief of the Wanshur tribe led a large number of people there. This time, he brought nearly 1/3 of all the warriors of the tribe. Because of various ferocious beasts and dangerous plants in the mountain forest, many of them died. But in the end, they found the old place of the Yanjiao tribe. Scraping the moss and vines on the stone with a knife, the chief of the Wanshur tribe, Bian, with blood stains on his body, looked at the words carved on the stone and read softly, Yanjiao. Then he snorted and said disdainfully to the shaman who came over, is this your concern? This tribe that has long been extinct? The Wanshur shaman didn't speak. Bian's smiling face became ferocious. He punched the big stone with the words carved on it. Bang! A fist-sized hole appeared on the hard stone. The stone, which had been firmly standing on the ground, was knocked down by this force and rolled away. He didn't look at the stone that had rolled away and continued to lead the group forward. Not long after, they arrived at the ruins. From a long time ago, the Wanshur tribe knew that there used to be a tribe here. But that tribe disappeared, leaving only ruins. Later, the chiefs who took over didn't care about the ruins in the mountain forest anymore. Because the mountain forest was expanding day by day, the ruins became more and more dangerous, so they rarely went inside. The ruins recorded the historical events of the great changes in the world. The tribe that used to live here was no longer as glorious as before. No one stayed, and they were regarded as extinct by everyone. Although it was already the season of lush vegetation and the surrounding forest was full of vitality, everyone who stood in front of the ruins could feel a sense of desolation. It was as if an old man had lifted up his cover and revealed his body that was riddled with scars. Glory and shame were things that happened thousands of years ago. Except for the people of the Yanjiao tribe, others didn't have such deep feelings. Just like the people of the Wanshur tribe standing here. Except for a little inexplicable emotion when they saw the ruins for the first time, they only thought about whether there were any precious things left here. Bian, the chief of the Wanshur tribe, looked at the obvious 6 marks on the ground and narrowed his eyes dangerously. Are these the marks of sacrifice? Bian pointed at the 6 lines that seemed to have been burned and asked the shaman. Although he didn't know much about this kind of sacrifice, he could see that these were the marks of another tribe's sacrifice ceremony. Every tribe had its own style of sacrifice. It should be, said the shaman. It should be. The shaman paused and said, I don't feel the existence of the fire seed here. Of course there is no fire seed here. This tribe died out long ago. Bian shouted. But if there was no fire seed, why would there be a suppression of the fire seed? If there was a suppression of the fire seed, it meant that another tribe was stronger than them. If it wasn't the big tribe that had died out, could it be a conspiracy of other tribes in the central region? The Wanshur tribe had made trouble for the Lu tribe many times and had been warned by several big tribes in the central region. So they deliberately held a sacrificial ceremony here to frighten the Wanshur tribe? Maybe the previous incident was also caused by those guys in the central region. Bien thought to himself. After all, except for them, no one was against him and it was impossible for them to create a suppression of the fire seed. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. Bien ignored the shaman, who wanted to say something but stopped, and called someone. Destroy everything in the surroundings. Completely and utterly destroyed. Especially here. Bien pointed to the center of the 6 marks, dig these out. Don't let me see these again. Although he thought it was the work of those old guys in the central region, he didn't have a good feeling about this place, especially the tall pillar, which seemed to be mocking the Wanshur tribe. Although the Wanshur tribe was one of the strongest in the central region, it was still weaker than the other big tribes because of the suppression of the fire seed. Destroy this too. He couldn't do anything to those old guys in the central region, but couldn't he do anything to these stone ruins? Anyway, it was useless to keep these things. If the tribe was gone, what was the point of these stones? They were an eyesore. In the mountain forest, with a bang, the tall pillar where Xiao Xian once stood fell down. Not only that, but Feng Wu was still not satisfied with the fallen stone pillar. He ordered his men to break the stone pillar into pieces and chisel many holes into the broken pillar. The paintings carved on the stone pillar were also destroyed until they were even more blurred. Not a single complete pattern could be seen. The surrounding ruins were even more ruined. Some half-collapsed stone houses all fell down. Large stone slabs were knocked into small pieces and the small pieces were thrown away in all directions. The better stones were dug out and taken away. The place where the fire pit used to be had been dug into pits of various sizes. It was completely different from what Xiao Xian saw when he first came here. The trees were cut down and the grass was dug up. The whole place was almost peeled off and changed. Looking at the final result, Bien was very satisfied. Then he laughed and set a fire in the forest. Burn those eyesores. Perhaps, if they were burned, no one would come here to make trouble again. It would be better to burn the forest here, but it was impossible. There were many pools nearby and ferocious beasts. Some ferocious beasts also knew how to put out fire. It was a pity. However, it was better not to burn them all. Otherwise, all the ferocious beasts here would be forced out, and the Wanshur tribe would be the first to suffer. Even if they couldn't burn them all, it would make Bien feel better. He liked to destroy. The feeling of destroying with his own hands was very pleasant. Let's go. Looking at the burning fire and smoke, Bien turned his head and shouted. In this season, in this place, the fire didn't spread fast. Many trees around were not easy to burn. There was no wind today, which gave them enough time to leave. Although many people were killed in the forest this time, Bien felt that it was worthwhile to come here. He got rid of one of his worries. Let's see what those old guys will do. Bien said. Although he admitted that those old strongmen were stronger than the Wanshur tribe, he wasn't afraid. They couldn't be much stronger, right? Those people of those tribes couldn't come here to fight with the Wanshur tribe, right? Bien left with his people. But before they went far, drops of rain began to fall from the sky. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. The fire, which was set well and not easy to burn before, was gradually extinguished. The rising smoke was also extinguished. Bah, it's raining. Bien said discontentedly. Today's weather was really gloomy. He knew there would be rain, but he didn't expect it to rain as soon as he set the fire. However, Bien didn't intend to go back. Let it be. Anyway, he had done what he should do. Different from Bien's good mood, the shaman's mood was more complicated. Because the uneasiness in his heart rose again, and it was stronger than before. He hoped that he was oversensitive. Chapter 227. After the people of the Wanshur tribe went to the old land of the Yanjiao tribe, many of them still felt a little anxious, especially the Wanshur shaman. He always felt that there was a big stone pressing on his heart, making it difficult for him to breathe. However, since then, the chief of the Wanshur tribe, Fuji, sent people into the forest again. Except for the wild beasts, ferocious beasts and some dangerous plants, there was no other abnormality. As a result, the people of the Wanshur tribe, who had been frightened by the annihilation of the Yanjiao tribe, had almost dissipated. Now the people of the Wanshur tribe felt that he had stabbed someone he didn't like. They had been worried about the other party's resistance and revenge, but they found that he was fine. Then they would stab him again. Oh, he was fine. So they started to tremble. They became bolder and became more and more fearless. Fuji finally spat out the thorn in his heart. At this time, he was more sure that the annihilation of the Yanjiao tribe and the suppression of the fire seed were all tricks played by the old guys of those tribes. But that was all. Yulan revealed a smug smile. Anyway, those people couldn't do anything to him. One of the ancestors of the Wanshur tribe once said that the central tribes would not easily start a war with the larger tribes. And this was also the reason why the successive chiefs of the Wanshur tribe didn't hide their ambitions and wantonly waved their claws. Fuji was the same. However, the Wanshur shaman was still worried. As the days went by, the big stone in his heart didn't disappear, but became heavier and heavier. Fuji didn't hide his claws, but the Wanshur shaman was afraid that one day, when the Wanshur tribe unscrupulously stretched out his claws, his arms and legs would be chopped off. No matter what the people of the Wanshur tribe were doing, on the other side of the river, the Yanjiao tribe was busy with shipbuilding and training. Since the artificial lake was filled with river water in the rainy season, shipbuilding and training had been accelerated. Except for Xiao Xian and Yan Ji, no one in the Yanjiao tribe had ever ridden a boat since they were born. They needed corresponding training. When the sails didn't work, they needed manpower to paddle and command. They also needed to adapt to the life on the boat. The hunting warriors' time outside had been reduced by half, and the number of hunting routes had also been reduced. Now, for the Yanjiao tribe, they only needed to ensure the basic amount of food. They didn't care too much about quality. Some wild beasts and ferocious beasts that they didn't care about before were now included in the hunting range. They weren't the only ones in the tribe who needed food. The shaman said that now the Yanjiao tribe was a whole, and no one could give up. A year passed. In the artificial lake of the Yanjiao tribe, there were already more than 20 boats. Each boat was more than 30 meters long. Except for the first 3 boats, which had only 1 deck, the others had 2 to 3 decks. After more than a year of continuous trial and error, the boats now were much better than before. Now, Yan Ji and the others were building a big boat, which was bigger than the other 20 boats. There were 3 big boats in total, and the wood used was excellent. The hunting teams had carefully selected the wood from various hunting grounds. Because in these 3 big boats, there would be the chief and the shaman, as well as the top people in the tribe. Can we set off this year? Lang Jie, who had just finished his training on the boat, came over and asked Xiao Xian. It depends on the progress of shipbuilding and the speed of adaptation. Xiao Xian said. During this year, almost every day, everyone was preparing for the departure. Xiao Xian was called to the top of the mountain to discuss matters. When he was free, Xiao Xian also used his free time to draw a wu roll for the shaman. He drew the key points of what he had seen and heard on the other side of the river on the wu roll, so that the shaman could have a clearer understanding. Orders were passed down from the top of the mountain, and the tribe was changing rapidly. From the time Xiao Xian decided to leave the tribe until now, only 3 years had passed, but the information that everyone had access to was more than the sum of all the information they had received before. Some people were at a loss and were not so enthusiastic about the change, but more people were full of expectations. They wanted to know more new things and meet more people. This boat will probably be finished in 10 days, right? Xiao Xian looked up at the big boat in front of him and said. 10 days, there are about 20 or 30 days left in the rainy season. It's not too late. Several people next to him rubbed their hands. If the boat was finished before the rainy season, they would have a rainy season to prepare. Then when the rainy season was over, the tribe would set off. Let's see how the boat is built. If it's okay. Xiao Xian did not finish his words, but everyone knew what he meant. If the big boat was built, they could set off. On the top of the mountain, in one of the rooms of the shaman's stone house, big boxes and boxes were tidied up and placed there. In addition to the special stone materials, some of the stone boxes and boxes were replaced with wooden ones to reduce the weight. Although the shaman looked quite calm outside, in fact, he had already started to pack things up before the people in the tribe knew. He was more anxious than the others. For so many years, many shamans had failed to complete this task. But now, there was finally hope for him. Seeing Chief Ao come in, the shaman asked, "How is it?" Xian said that the boat will be finished in 10 days. Ao looked at the shaman and did not see anything from his old face. After a pause, he said, "If the boat is finished, we can leave this year." "Yes, we can leave this year." The shaman sighed. If they couldn't leave this year, they would have to wait for another year. The rainy season started early this year, but it may last a little longer. This is a rare opportunity, the shaman said. He could not accurately predict the future weather like Yang Sui of the Rain tribe, but he could give a general range. The rainy season started early and ended early. That was to say, from the end of the rainy season to the coincidence of the 2 moons, it would take a long time. It was indeed a good opportunity. If they couldn't seize it, they didn't know what would happen next year or the year after. Step up the training and restrain everyone. If anyone makes trouble. The shaman's calm face became serious. Ao nodded, "I have already told Ta and Gigu. Even if the ferocious beasts are successfully engraved, if they can't control them well, don't blame me for being ruthless." Nothing could be compared with the tribe, even if the ferocious beasts were successfully tamed and engraved. 10 days later, the 3 big boats were on the artificial lake for trial. "How is it?" Aoedi had already come over. Staring at the 3 boats on the lake, he asked Xiao Xian and Yan Ji on the boat. "There is no problem for the time being. Let's try for a while," Yan Ji said. Ao still looked serious and looked at Xiao Xian. Seeing Xiao Xian nod slightly, Ao clenched his fists and strode away. The more he walked, the faster he walked. When he went up the mountain, he could only see a shadow. Now that everything was ready, he needed to discuss with the shaman about the departure of the tribe after the rainy season this year. "The old place, I really want to see what it looks like," Ao thought. Chapter 228. The rain washed over the earth. With the arrival of the rainy season, the giant river overlords were migrating once a year. In the river, in places that couldn't be seen, there were many aquatic creatures that were doing the same thing as the overlords of the river. Compared to the bustling river, the Yanjiao tribe was much quieter. Except for some guards who were assigned to different places, most people stayed at home. A worm came out of nowhere, moving its countless claws, and quickly crawled into the house. Paw! A wolf's claw slammed down on it, flattening the insect that was about to enter the house. Caesar was lying in the house, almost filling up the hall. Its head was at the door, like a door god, slapping anything that tried to crawl into the house. Old Ku stood in the stone crafting room, looking at the heavy rain outside the window with hope in his eyes. Behind him, there were wooden boxes that had already been packed. In the corner of the house, there were some old stone boxes of different sizes, but they couldn't be taken away. Almost there, in the tribe, there were many people like Old Ku, who had already packed their things. Because of the limited space, there was a limit to what they could bring. If they wanted to bring more, they had to report it and get permission. Otherwise, they would just throw it away. If someone really didn't want to leave their things at home, they could just stay here with those things. At the top of the mountain, Xiao Xian saw the shaman standing by the fire pit, chanting something. During this period, the shaman would come here every day. The shaman said it was a ceremony, a farewell ceremony. When the rainy season ended, the tribe would leave this place where they had lived for nearly 1,000 years. Naturally, they would take the fire with them. The fire in the fire pit, whether it was raining, snowing, or windy, the fire was still the same, unaffected. After today's ceremony, the shaman turned around and left the fire pit, walking towards Xiao Xian. Xian, what do you think will happen when Yanjiao returns to the old land? The shaman asked. Xiao Xian thought for a while and said, it won't be peaceful anymore. Yes, it's no longer peaceful. Shaman looked at the misty river in the distance. Although his tone was emotional, the determination in his eyes never wavered. Ao didn't say anything. His face was filled with joy, and his clenched fists showed that he was still excited. He was the chief. In the future, even after he passed away, the descendants of the Yanjiao tribe would still remember him. This was an important turning point in the history of the tribe. Their names would be recorded in the animal skin rolls that would be passed down to future generations. This was a supreme honor. After standing at the top of the mountain for a while, the shaman, Xiao Xian and Ao returned to the stone house. In the house, the two team leaders and several other old men had already arrived. Alright, let's confirm our return plan again today. Ao spread out a piece of animal skin and said. Every 2 days, this group of people would gather here. If they didn't come for a discussion, they would feel uncomfortable all over. As an important member, Xiao Xian was often called up. After all, he was the only one with sailing experience. When the rainy season finally ended, the people who had been silent for the entire rainy season became excited. It was time to leave. The people on the mountain carried large and small boxes down the mountain. Men and women, old and young, groups by groups, walked down the path of glory. Perhaps, this was the last time in their lives that they would walk down this road. A child held his animal skin bag and followed his parents down the mountain. Halfway down the mountain, he looked back at the direction of his house. For some reason, he burst into tears. A big rough hand put on the child's head and turned his head to the front. Look at the road, don't look back. Okay. At the foot of the mountain, Gu and a few others who were usually in charge of delivering food to the cave instructed the children in the cave to leave. Cha-Cha grabbed several boxes that old Ku had tied up and flew to the boat on the other side of the artificial lake. Caesar carried old Ku on his back and went to the other side of the lake with the others at the foot of the mountain. Who would take which boat had been arranged long ago. Moreover, everyone had adapted to the boat for a period of time, so they did not immediately feel uncomfortable after getting on the boat. Xiao Xian was asked by the shaman to go up the mountain to help. The shaman had the most things. Others could reduce the boxes, but not the shaman. Even if the shaman wanted to reduce the boxes, others would not agree. Those were all left by their ancestors. The warriors who helped to move the boxes were all very careful as if they were fragile objects. Their faces were respectful and their bodies were stiff. They had to be cautious with every step they took. After moving the boxes, Xiao Xian went to check on old Ku's situation. After confirming that everything was fine, he went up the mountain. Before going up the mountain, Xiao Xian went to the cave to take a look. When he woke up that year, he was in this cave. In the blink of an eye, so much time had passed. When he came to the stone room with the murals, Xiao Xian looked at the painting on the wall. His eyes stopped at the end of the painting. After thinking for a while, Xiao Xian used a stone knife to carve a few words in the blank space behind the painting. We went back to the old place. After writing, he carved the word Xian at the end of the sentence. Standing up, Xiao Xian blocked the vent with stones and thatch, and then walked out. A gust of wind blew, carrying with it the smell of fish that had not yet dispersed. Xiao Xian looked at the stone wall near the entrance of the cave. There were still words carved on it when he had not awakened his totemic power. There were also some drawings made with charred branches. In addition to Xiao Xian's drawings, there were also all kinds of traces left by the children who had lived here for nearly 1,000 years. There were fish bones left after being eaten, tattered animal skins, and messy piles of thatch. Walking out of the cave, Xiao Xian moved a big stone from not far away to block the entrance of the cave, and covered everything in the cave. When he went up the mountain, he had finished moving everything, and there was nothing for him to do. However, the shaman did not let him leave. Not only Xiao Xian, but Chief Ao, the two team leaders, Mai and the other leaders of the hunting groups, and the old men who always participated in the meeting, also stayed. The shaman led them to the top of the mountain. When they came down, there was a small flame in the shaman's hand. It was much smaller than the one in the fire pit, and looked like a small flame on a birthday candle. The shaman held it carefully in his hand. Chief Ao walked next to the shaman. As the future successor of the shaman, Gui Zhe helped the shaman hold the crutch, and stood slightly behind Ao on the other side. The others stood around to protect the shaman. Walking down the path of glory, there were 2 rows of warriors standing on both sides of the road. Among these people, no one was lower than an intermediate totem warrior. When the shaman passed by, the warriors standing there would kneel down and perform the highest salute of the tribe. After the shaman left, they would stand up and follow him, all with red eyes. Walking down the path of glory to the artificial lake where 23 boats were parked, the shaman walked slowly, but no one complained. Those who had already boarded the boats were not impatient at all. The biggest boat had already docked, and a wooden ladder was lowered from above. On the boat, there was a small fire pit, which was only the size of a basin. After the shaman brought the flame up, he put it in there. When the shaman was ready, Ao announced the departure. Woo, the bone horn sounded, and the people in charge of the boats immediately ordered the people to set sail. They had received training. Although they were not as skilled as Xiao Xian in controlling the boat, they could do it. The boats left the artificial lake one after another. The waterway gate between the lake and the river had been opened, and the boats sailed out of the waterway and came to the river. Above. Well, now everyone should be careful. Be careful not to fall behind. Ao roared. The fleet went farther and farther, and the mountain where the tribe was located gradually became smaller in their vision. Everything that Xiao Xian had experienced before, this time everyone would experience it again. Under the water, large and small piranhas were active. If one stood on the side of the boat and looked down, he could see many big fish that were longer than a person swimming by. Sometimes they would bump into the boat and make the boat shake. As they sailed, Xiao Xian, who had been checking the situation on the boats, found that the farther the boats were from the central boat, the more likely they were to be disturbed by the fish. At first, Xiao Xian did not understand and had various guesses. But when Xiao Xian suddenly had an idea and looked with his special vision, he found that the light emitted from the central boat touched the boats closest to it, and those boats were rarely hit by the fish. Fire seed. Grabbing Cha-Cha's eagle foot, Xiao Xian went from the boats in the outer circle to the central boat. He told the shaman and the chief about his discovery, but he did not mention his special ability. Because of the fire seed? The shaman thought for a while and his eyes lit up. Yes, the fire seed can protect the tribe from other beasts and ferocious beasts. The same goes for the fish in the river. As he spoke, the shaman chanted a spell. Just like during the ceremony, the fire seed expanded from a small flame to the whole fire pit. However, the temporary fire pit on the boat was much smaller. Let everyone come closer. The shaman said to Ao. Ao went out and told everyone what the shaman said. The other boats moved closer, but they could not get too close. If they were too close, it would be easy to get into trouble. Walking out of the cabin, Xiao Xian looked again. The light emitted from the central boat was much brighter and expanded outwards, just enough to cover the approaching boats. Although the boats later were occasionally grazed by some overly curious big fish, the frequency was much less. It was much better than when Xiao Xian sailed alone. Day by day, the fleet sailed smoothly. In order to make the best use of time, in addition to the sails, there were people on each boat who took turns to paddle. Although there was no Cha-Cha pulling the boats this time, the speed of the boats was good. After determining the direction, they went straight in that direction. They tried to sail in a straight line, unless they encountered some floating dead fish or some dangerous factors. After all, if they could not reach the other side of the river before the water level dropped, all their previous efforts would be in vain. In that case, the Yanjiao tribe would really disappear from the stage of history. At the same time, Xiao Xian had a strange feeling in his heart again. This time, with the fire seed, protection, and more manpower, Xiao Xian had more free time. He used this free time to carefully observe the surrounding river, even the clouds in the sky, the moon, and the stars in the sky. Xiao Xian suddenly had a guess in his heart. Maybe, this river was not as big as he thought. Chapter 229. The boat seemed to be moving very fast, braving the wind and waves, but it was very likely that it was only moving a little bit. The direction of the wind on the river often changed, and the direction of the water in the river was very likely to change as well. Xiao Xian had not noticed this before. When he was in the tribe, he could only see the shallow water near the shore, where it was not obvious. He could only see the horizontal changes of the river. After setting out, he focused on controlling the boat and identifying the direction, so he did not pay attention to the changes of the river's direction. Now that he observed carefully, he found that the vertical direction of the river also changed. So sometimes, the boat seemed to be moving, but in fact, it was just maintaining its position. This was only Xiao Xian's guess, and he could not confirm it now. However, Xiao Xian wondered if there was another relatively stable passage in other parts of the river. Where did the giant mountain eagles that went to the Eagle Mountain pass through? In order to avoid forgetting, Xiao Xian wrote down this question in his animal skin roll. Maybe he would encounter it in the future. Especially the Hui tribe. The tribe's boat had been moving in the direction Xiao Xian pointed out. At first, some people were not used to it and even became seasick. Xiao Xian had already prepared for this. He and the shaman had researched medicine for seasickness. It worked, but it was limited. Many people were holed up in the cabin, and the energetic people were also restricted from moving. At most, they could only come out to look at the scenery outside, and watch the big fish with stripes and thorny dorsal fins downstream. Life on the river was very boring and stressful. No one could sleep well. Sometimes, as soon as they closed their eyes, the boat would shake a few times, and the sleepiness would be scared away. The fear brought by the river to the Yanjiao tribesmen was still there. In order to make sure that they reached the destination before the river level dropped, they traveled day and night, and the warriors took turns to go to the river. As the days passed, the energetic people became as listless as the seasick people. Many people were obviously thinner. The amount of water and food on the ship was also decreasing. Those who didn't work could only get a small amount of food to meet their minimum needs. The rest of the food was given to the soldiers who worked. No one had any complaints about this. The few ferocious beasts that had been successfully engraved on the ship didn't dare to wander around at all. They would be thrown into the river to feed the fishes. Every day, they could only look enviously at the cha-cha that could fly around in the sky and catch fish. When cha-cha flew down from the sky and looked at the sky with fear, Xiao Xian informed them in advance that there was no wind around them, so Ao asked everyone to paddle with all their might. When they finally got out of the dangerous area, they looked back and found that the wooden planks thrown behind them were instantly smashed into pieces. The river water seemed to have evaporated and turned into a mist. Ao and the others had the same feeling as Xiao Xian. They gasped and couldn't calm down for a long time. "This river is indeed dangerous," Ao said. Ta and Gigu looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. They nodded and agreed with Ao's words. At first, they only knew that Xiao Xian had a hard time crossing the river. There were many difficulties, but they didn't have any idea. But when they experienced it themselves, they knew how dangerous it was. If they were careless, they would be buried at the bottom of the river. After experiencing it themselves, Xiao Xian became more and more important in the hearts of the people in the tribe. It could be said that without Xiao Xian, even if the tribe built a big ship, it would be impossible to cross the river safely. "Are we almost there?" Ta looked ahead. It was still a boundless river. "It's still far away, but I think we can make it," Xiao Xian said. This year, the rainy season came early and ended early, leaving more time for the tribe. Even if the tribe's ships couldn't match the speed of Xiao Xian's last time, they could still make it. Life on the river continued. In the fleet, everyone's excitement at the beginning had already calmed down. The children on the ship either ate or slept. When they woke up, they gathered together to chat because they couldn't move freely. A long eagle cry came from the sky. The ears of the several ferocious beasts on the ship stood up and their eyes lit up. Ao and the others didn't quite understand what Cha-Cha meant. They all looked at Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian grabbed the eagle's claw and flew to the sky. When he came down, he said to the others, "We're here. We can see the river bank." Ao was overjoyed. The two team leaders also shouted excitedly. After shouting, they immediately turned back to the cabin. "Team leaders, what are they doing?" Xiao Xian was confused. Not only the two team leaders, but also Kiki and the others ran into the cabin. "Didn't we say that the drumming tribe is over there?" "Ta and the others are dressing up," Ao said, and also went into the cabin. Xiao Xian was speechless. The so-called dressing up, it couldn't be what he thought it was, right? The ships were also communicating with each other. Almost every ship was experiencing the same thing. The silent cabins were bustling with noise and excitement. When Xiao Xian saw the shaman coming out of the cabin, the corners of his eyes twitched. When did the old man wear those bone ornaments on his head? He also wore a necklace made of animal teeth on his neck. The cloak was not the one he wore when he first came on the ship. At first glance, he knew it was a new leather cloak that had been carefully taken care of. Looking at the leaders, team leaders, and other totem warriors, Xiao Xian felt like a group of forest raccos were running towards them with their big feet. Bang 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 bang, they smacked their lips and ran towards them with smoke and dust. Maybe the people of the Yanjiao tribe thought that this day was a very important day. Moreover, didn't the shaman and the chief say that they had to leave a good impression on the first tribe they saw and the first partner they cooperated with? Therefore, Xiao Xian saw that everyone was dressed up like they were on the day of the ceremony. They were wearing animal skins, horns, bone ornaments, and masks. Looking around, they were all like this on every ship. Except for looking a little thinner than usual, they were all full of energy. They had gotten rid of the fatigue from the previous voyage. Xiao Xian covered his face with his hands and shook his head with a smile. He didn't know what the people of the drumming tribe's first impression of the Yanjiao tribe would be. In the drumming tribe, the people of the drumming tribe, who had no idea about the arrival of the Yanjiao tribe, were not in a good mood. Since they got the news, everyone was in a bad mood and prepared for war earlier than usual. The crocodiles had already left during the rainy season. Only the baby crocodiles that were born not long ago stayed in the tribe. Fu Shi returned home like a wild beast, his face full of fatigue. The family ate in silence. After eating, Fu Shi and his wife continued to carry out their tasks, patrolling and defending. The usually rebellious Chen Jia was rarely obedient. He knew that the atmosphere in the tribe was not good recently. Everyone was worried. "Are they really coming?" Chen Jia asked. Fu Shi raised his head and looked at Chen Jia. He sighed and nodded. At the end of the rainy season, they went to the Pu tribe to trade. They exchanged for more tools and better stones in preparation for the Water Moon Festival. It was at that time that the Pu tribe brought them a piece of news. Last year, a tribe in the central region discovered an important medicinal effect of the Water Moon Stone. Therefore, the Water Moon Stone became very popular in the central region. A piece of the same size Water Moon Stone could be exchanged for 2 to 3 times more things than before. The big tribes in the central region would not blatantly come to find trouble with the remote tribes. However, other tribes were not so sure. For example, 2 years ago, the drumming tribe came to probe. It was said that because the drumming tribe failed that time, this time, they were likely to join forces with other tribes to snatch the Water Moon Stone. The drumming tribe alone was enough for the drumming tribe. If there were other tribes, it would be even more difficult. Moreover, since they heard that the drumming tribe would be found trouble, the Luo tribe and other tribes that were relatively close began to avoid the drumming tribe. If the drumming tribe wanted to ask them for help, it would be impossible. Everyone avoided them, for fear of getting into trouble. As for the Pu tribe, they only provided some information and clues. It was impossible for them to get involved in such trouble. Therefore, the chief of the drumming tribe, Fan Mu, was very worried. Since the day he received the news, he could not sleep well. He could only ask the people in the tribe to prepare as many tools and weapons as possible. This year may be the most difficult year for the drumming tribe, Fan Mu said. The shaman of the drumming tribe sat next to him. He looked worried, as did the others around him. The water moon stone became more precious. This was a good thing, but also a bad thing. The good thing was that the drumming tribe could use the water moon stone to exchange for more things. The bad thing was that they did not know if they could keep these water moon stones. Why are we afraid of them? If they want to come, we'll kill them all. A warrior's eyes were cold. In his tawny eyes, the vertical pupils looked colder and sharper. However, he was hot-tempered. Yes. We'll kill them all. Just like before. We're not afraid. Several younger people could not help shouting. Shut up. The chief Fan Mu scolded. There were many people who were not afraid of death, but it did not mean that they were not worried. It could be foreseen that this time, if the drumming tribe really joined forces with others to attack the drumming tribe, what would happen to the drumming tribe? Let's go and find some people. A middle-aged warrior next to him said. Fan Mu shook his head. There were only a few days left. No one near them was willing to get involved. They were not familiar with those far away. Even if they could persuade others to help, they might invite a wolf into the house. Fan Mu did not trust them. The room suddenly became quiet. Only several young people were breathing heavily. They were angry because the drumming tribe repeatedly came to rob the water moon stones. They were also angry that the surrounding tribes did not help. If only Xiao Xian's tribe was here. A man suddenly whispered. When Xiao Xian left, he said that the Yanjiao tribe and the drumming tribe would have friendly exchanges. If the Yanjiao tribe was here, they would help. But where are we going to find the people of the Flaming Horns tribe? Xiao Xian did not say where their tribe was. The room became quiet again. At this time, a whistle came from the river bank. What's going on? Someone is attacking so soon. No, it's not like someone is attacking. It's more like, not long after, a patrolling warrior rushed in, panting. He ran too fast and did not stop, so he was caught by Fan Mu and forced to stop. The man's face was red either because he was running or because he was too excited. What's going on? Fan Mu asked. When the warrior was about to speak, Fan Mu heard a long and loud eagle cry. It was very familiar. Chapter 230. Originally, they were preparing for battle, but when they heard the whistle, they tensed up again. Then came the cry of an eagle, which made everyone a little bewildered. But soon, everyone was sure, because they saw the leader and the shaman, as well as the group of people behind the leader, rushing straight to the riverbank. Could it be, Fu Shi, who was patrolling, was surprised. Brother, I have something to do, so I'll leave for a while. Fu Shi said to the people next to him, and then ran to the riverbank. Chen Jia, who was left at home, was secretly sharpening his knife. After hearing the eagle cry, he didn't even have time to hide his knife, and rushed to the riverbank with it. He was so familiar with the eagle cry, because he often heard it. Fan Mu, the chief, and the others, kept looking for the eagle in the sky, and then followed him to the riverbank. It's Xiao Xian. Fan Mu said happily. He didn't expect that Xiao Xian would come. He could ask Xiao Xian if he could ask the Yanjiao tribe to come and help. Chief, look! The people next to him elbowed Fan Mu. Because he was too excited, he didn't control his strength well. Usually, he wouldn't dare to do this, but at this time, he didn't care. Fan Mu was about to ask, but when he looked down and saw the situation on the river, he suddenly opened his eyes wide. Not only Fan Mu, but also everyone who came to see the scene in front of them were stunned. On the surface of the river in the distance, many boats were approaching this place. Although they couldn't compare with some boats of the Longboat tribe, for the people of the Drumming tribe, these were the biggest and best boats they had ever seen, especially the three in the front. Is that the Longboat tribe? This was the first thought that came to the people who saw the fleet. No, it's not. That's the Yanjiao tribe. The people next to him shouted, and their voices were trembling with excitement. Although the boats were still a little far away, people with good eyesight could vaguely see the patterns painted on the sails, which were like the totem patterns of the Yanjiao tribe they had seen in Xiao Xian's place. The Yanjiao tribe. It was said that Xiao Xian had a good relationship with the Yanjiao tribe. Did the Yanjiao tribe get the news and come to help? If so, it would be great. When the people around them were avoiding them like the plague, when they thought that they would have to face the attacks from all sides alone, when they were planning to suffer the greatest loss, a helper came. How great was this news? On the other side, the people on the boat, they were getting closer and closer. We're finally reaching the shore. Are they people of the Drumming tribe? Are they all coming to welcome us? So many people. Tua, can you help me check if the horns on my head are crooked? Didn't they said there were crocodiles? Where are the crocodiles? Where are the crocodiles? Cha-cha, cha-cha, ao, aos, ao. Aos, ao, aos, ao, tribe, ao, aos is ao, tribes, ao, and ao. Ao. Was, after all, of ao, b, ao, of the ao. This was ao. He was trying to maintain a dignified image of a leader, but he was sweating too much because he wiped his palms on his animal skin coat from time to time. The shaman kept a standard shaman smile and looked calm. If people didn't know him well, they would think that the old man was very calm. Cha-cha, who flew over first, hovered in the air for a while. He didn't land until the chief and the shaman of the Drumming tribe arrived. When he was close to the ground, Xiao Xian loosened his hand holding the eagle's claw and landed on the ground, standing steadily. Everyone, long time no see. Xiao Xian looked at the people of the Drumming tribe and smiled. Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian, you've grown taller. Are you here to help? Xiao Xian, are the people behind you from your tribe? Fan Mu pushed aside the people squeezing forward, suppressed the excitement and joy in his heart, and said to Xiao Xian, long time no see. Welcome to the Drumming tribe again. Well, our tribe is going back to the old haunt this time, so we need to pass through your tribe. Sorry to bother you. Xiao Xian said. In the Drumming tribe, there were several tributaries flowing to the river, one of which was relatively wide. Now the river level hadn't dropped much, so boats could go in from there. No problem. Fan Mu agreed without hesitation, but glanced at the shaman, and then said to Xiao Xian, I'll meet them in person. Xiao Xian noticed the conversation between the two leaders of the Drumming tribe and knew that there was something hidden in it. Thinking that it was close to the harvest time of the water moonstones of the Drumming tribe, he guessed that it was related to this matter. After talking with Fan Mu, Xiao Xian returned to the boat again and told the shaman and Ao about Fan Mu's reply and his guess. If it's just the invasion and robbery you mentioned, it's okay to help them. After all, they have helped you and Yan Ji. This is the first tribe we've seen. As you said, Xian, since we should have friendly exchanges and help each other, we should help them when they are in trouble. Ao said. Indeed. The shaman said, the Yanjiao tribe shouldn't be silent. Ao smiled, looked at the approaching shore, and said, then let's take this as the first whetstone for our Yanjiao tribe after we return. The fleet sailed towards the tributary of the Drumming tribe, and the people on the shore also gathered there. The people of the Drumming tribe were ecstatic when they saw Xiao Xian and the Yanjiao tribe at the beginning, and laughed out loud. But as the fleet got closer and closer, they gradually quieted down. When the fleet got closer, the people of the drumming tribe were stunned when they saw the well-dressed people on the ships. The people of the Yanjiao tribe were dressed a little too gorgeously. On such a hot day, they wore thick animal skins. Didn't they feel hot? But the skin looked really good. It was oily and smooth. They would definitely keep warm in winter. They wondered how many water moonstones they could exchange for it. And those people were wearing necklaces made of animal teeth. Damn, look at those animal teeth. What kind of beast did that belong to? Did a beast have such big teeth? The ships of the Yanjiao tribe sailed from the river to the tributary, and then docked on the shore. The people of the two tribes could see each other clearly. In fact, the people of the Yanjiao tribe were also excited. But when they saw that the chief was so serious, they also became serious. Following the chief was the right thing to do. The people of the Yanjiao tribe were as serious as when dealing with ferocious beasts. Therefore, a murderous aura spread out. A gust of wind blew. Fu Shi shivered and scratched his arm. He whispered to the people next to him, "Why do I feel a little?" He didn't say the word scared. The others had the same feeling as him. Originally, they thought that the people of their own tribe were domineering enough. But today, when they saw the people of the Yanjiao tribe, they suddenly felt that there was always someone better than them. They looked so tough. Even Xiao Xian didn't look like that. Is this really a small tribe? Someone asked in a low voice. If they only looked at the number of people, it was indeed not a large tribe. But they all looked like they were not to be trifled with, and the beasts on the ships were eager to have a try. No! Chief, those on the ships are not beasts, are they? I have never seen such beasts. A warrior came over and pointed at the beasts on the ships, and said to Fan Mu. They are ferocious beasts. Fan Mu stared at the ships and said word by word. He was not sure when he first saw them, but now he was closer. The more he looked at them, the more he felt something was wrong. He thought that Xiao Xian's eagle was a ferocious beast. So, those on the ships were probably ferocious beasts too. Fan Mu suppressed the shock in his heart. His palm holding the knife was sweaty. He really didn't expect that the Yanjiao tribe would be such a tribe. Even though there were not many people, Fan Mu was sure that if the two sides fought now, the drumming tribe would definitely be at a disadvantage, and it would be very miserable. The wooden ladder was put down. On the largest ship, the chief and the shaman walked down side by side. Behind them were two team leaders, and behind them were the excellent young warriors of the Yanjiao tribe. Originally, many people wanted to jump off the ship directly, but Ao told them to walk down the ladder, so they all followed him. Welcome to the drumming tribe. I am Fan Mu, the chief of the drumming tribe. Fan Mu stepped forward with a perfect smile and said, Nice to meet you. Ao's serious face also showed a smile. I am Ao, the chief of the Yanjiao tribe. The two shamans also faced each other and saluted in the way of their respective tribes. For shamans, saluting was also a very important thing, just like a ceremony. After the introduction, one of the two shamans smiled mysteriously, while the other smiled meaningfully. It seemed that everything was understood without words. Xiao Xian, who was watching aside, was speechless. It was not easy to be a shaman. Look at these two, they seem to have had a deep conversation before they spoke. According to Xiao Xian's understanding of shamans, the two shamans had a good impression of each other. They had really been friends for a long time. The chief and the shaman of the drumming tribe invited the people of the Flaming Horns tribe, and Ao also planned to rest for a few days in the drumming tribe. Although everyone looked very energetic now, it was only because they saw the first outsider on the shore. They were still tired and needed a good rest. Some people followed Ao and the shaman into the residential area of the drumming tribe, while others, under the guidance of the drumming tribe, rowed the ship to a suitable berthing point on the tributary. But they did not get off the ship. Without the chief's order, they still had to stay on the ship. Moreover, even if they were excited to see the drumming tribe, they still needed to be vigilant. Only a few ferocious beasts, who were bored out of their minds, clung to the edge of the ship and looked at the drumming tribe people below the ship, which made the drumming tribe people's hair stand on end. After Fan Mu led people into the tribe, he chatted with Ao and told him about his difficult situation. The Yanjiao tribe is naturally willing to help the drumming tribe in such a dangerous situation. After all, Xian has also received your help. It's just that my people need a rest. The drumming tribe can provide all the accommodation and food, so that the Yanjiao warriors can have a good rest. Fan Mu hurriedly said. The drumming tribe had a large area, so it was not a problem to build a batch of houses in a few days. We can solve the problem of food by ourselves. We only need some houses. After all, there was still the ship. While the two chiefs were talking about the settlement, outside the house, Xiao Xian and Fu Shi were also chatting. The shaman and Ao allowed Xiao Xian to learn more about the situation outside. Those bastards who robbed the water moonstones. I heard that they found a helper this year, Xiao Xian. If you didn't come, the drumming tribe might have to face them alone. Fu Shi said angrily. Listening to Fu Shi, Xiao Xian also roughly understood what was going to happen. Don't worry, we won't stand by and do nothing. Xiao Xian said. Ao had already decided to use this matter as the first whetstone. Moreover, the warriors had been bored out of their minds these days, so their hands must have been itching for a long time. The difference was that the warriors of the tribe faced ferocious beasts before, but now they had to face people. Ao wanted to see the warriors' performance. Chapter 231. With the arrival of the Yanjiao tribe, the drumming tribesmen, who were originally nervous and worried, felt less pressure. At least in the coming war, they would not be fighting alone. With a helper, they felt more at ease. After the two chiefs finished talking, they began to build houses in a place with fewer ponds. After all, not everyone liked to live on ponds. Fan Mu had considered this point, and after discussing it with Ao, they decided to divide the area. That place was slightly away from the drumming tribe's dwelling area. Usually, besides the patrolling team, no one would go there, so Ao took a fancy to it. Even if the two tribes cooperated, they would still be on guard against each other. They were not so familiar with each other that they would not guard against each other. Moreover, that place was closer to the tributary where they docked their ships. Not only could it solve the housing problem, but it could also maintain a satisfactory distance. Naturally, there were no objections. With the help of the drumming tribesmen, the construction efficiency was naturally faster. The next day, there were many more houses in that area full of weeds and trees. The houses were relatively simple, but it did not matter. The Yanjiao tribesmen did not care. They were not going to live here for long. Once the drumming tribe's affairs were settled, they would leave. The elderly, women, and children were still placed on the ships. The ships were relatively safe. If there was an invasion, the Yanjiao tribesmen would do their best to prevent the invaders from boarding. Xiao Xian was taking care of the trees and bushes around the newly built temporary residence, and setting up some warning traps. Hearing someone call his name, he looked up. After 2 years, Chen Jia had obviously grown a lot taller, but there was a scar on his face, like a knife wound. What happened? Xiao Xian pointed at the scar on Chen Jia's face. This? Chen Jia laughed, very proud. It was left from last year's Water Moon Festival. The drumming tribe had a lot of trouble every year during the Water Moon Festival. Last year, Chen Jia participated in the defense battle and was slightly injured. The scar on his face was left at that time. While laughing, Chen Jia became depressed again. This year, my father did not let me participate in the battle. I had to secretly sharpen my knife. Because of the news, the people of the drumming tribe sounded the highest alarm. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they naturally wouldn't allow these young children to join. If anything happened to the warriors who participated in the battle, these young people who were still in their growth period would be the tribe's future hope. Seeing Xiao Xian, Chen Jia was very happy. He told Xiao Xian everything that had happened in the past 2 years, especially his heroic battle last year. Young warriors were always happy to share their glorious achievements with others. After he finished speaking, Chen Jia looked around. Seeing that no one was paying attention to them, he asked in a low voice, "Xiao Xian, do the people in your tribe usually dress like this?" Chen Jia gestured to his head, neck, and body. "No, I only dress up like this on important days," Xiao Xian said. Did that mean that the Yanjiao tribe still valued their own tribe? Chen Jia was very happy. He decided to go back and tell everyone about this discovery. "That's right, Xiao Xian, where's your animal skin coat?" Chen Jia looked inside the house. Previously, when he saw the Yanjiao tribe people, his gaze never left the Yanjiao tribe people's bodies. Those unknown animal skins and all kinds of ornaments, as well as those big teeth, made his eyes stare straight. However, Chen Jia wasn't familiar with the other Yanjiao tribe people, so he could only come to Xiao Xian's place. He wanted to see the Yanjiao tribe's clothing, so he could go back and brag to others. "I only brought one piece. It's in the wooden box inside. The rest are on the boat." Xiao Xian pointed to the wooden box in the corner. This was something that old Ku had asked Caesar to send over early in the morning. There were 2 boxes. One contained daily necessities and clothes, and the other contained the enlarged thorn black wind clothing. Old Ku was worried that Xiao Xian wouldn't have anything to show off. "Can I take a look?" Chen Jia asked expectantly. "Sure." Chen Jia happily ran to the front of the wooden box and opened it. Oh, Chen Jia touched the clothes that were covered with spikes. Other than crocodiles, they had only seen a few wild beasts. They had never seen a beast with so many long thorns. While Chen Jia was looking at the thorn black wind clothing with shining eyes, Xiao Xian also casually asked about the upcoming war. "Don't underestimate this group of rebellious children. The things that they know may not be less than the adults. Chen Jia and the other children have a very close relationship with each other. Other than the drumming tribe, there's also the drumming tribe. It's also a very dangerous tribe." Chen Jia said. "Drumming tribe?" "Yes, a friend of mine overheard it. It's just that the drumming tribe is close to the central region and rarely comes here. This time, they will probably come, but I'm not sure." Chen Jia told Xiao Xian all the information he had gathered. As Xiao Xian listened, he changed the direction of the thin silk thread in his hand. He thought to himself, "It seems that this time, there will be many people coming here to snatch the water moonstones. Moreover, they are all fierce characters. Maybe there will be people from the central region involved. No wonder the people of the drumming tribe were so desperate. The Yanjiao tribe, I have to be more cautious." At night, Xiao Xian shared a room with 8 warriors. Among them were Kiki and Tua. They were all people he knew. As the night deepened, there were no fires in the drumming tribe. The Yanjiao tribe also went to bed early. There were no fires around, only the moonlight sprinkling down. In the middle of the night, Kiki woke up because he wanted to pee. He got up in a daze and went outside to relieve himself. Not long after Kiki went out, an undetectable buzzing sound was heard. Xiao Xian suddenly opened his eyes and carefully identified the direction of the silk thread. Xiao Xian took out his leather whistle and blew it a few times. It sounded like the sound of insects in the night. Kiki, who was walking in a daze from his room into the forest, suddenly stopped. He yawned and continued to walk forward. However, after stretching his body, he put his hand on the hilt of the knife at his waist. It was a habit of hunting. When outside, no matter where, no matter what, the knife would never leave his body. It was the first time he came to such a strange tribe, so he had to be more careful. Except for the first day when everyone dressed up, they changed back to their original clothes on the second day, which made it easier to work. At this time, most of the people of the Yanjiao tribe were wearing sleeveless animal skin clothes. On Keek's exposed strong arms, the muscles were like hard stones, and the meridians on his arms were pulsing. His strong body looked like a solid wall. At first glance, he really did look like someone from the drumming tribe. Kiki walked into the depths of the forest step by step. While walking, Kiki suddenly adjusted the totem power in his body to the limit. The momentum around his body rose instantly, and the flame-like lines appeared clearly on his exposed arms. He stomped his feet on the ground, splashing mud and grass. Kiki's figure shot out like a bullet, rushing in one direction. Was he discovered? The man in the grass didn't know how he was discovered so quickly, even though he was good at hiding. When did the people of the drumming tribe become so sharp? The man hiding in the grass didn't expect that the sleepy guy would suddenly attack. Moreover, the guy was running straight towards him. He was so fast that he didn't have much time to react. This kind of attack was similar to the people of the drumming tribe, who broke out in an instant and closely followed the prey. The person in the grass also reacted quickly. He hurriedly stepped back a few meters. His movement was not as fierce as Kiki's, but it was also very fast. His figure flashed from left to right, and the next moment, he suddenly rushed to another direction like lightning. His whole person was like a ghost in the night, drifting unpredictably. He thought that after dodging the first explosion, he would be able to get rid of the opponent's tight chase. But soon, he found that it was useless. The wall-like figure kept chasing him, and became more and more flexible. His speed was no slower than his. How could it be? The man who was dodging was horrified. Didn't they say that when facing the people of the drumming tribe, as long as he dodged the first explosion, he would be able to get rid of them? But what was going on now? The two sides were getting closer and closer. The stone knife flashed with the night wind, mixed with the cold killing intent. The man only felt a gust of wind. His sensitive nose was full of fierce blood smell. It didn't smell like human blood, but more like something more dangerous. The man's eyes flashed with despair. His whole body was cold, and his legs seemed to be frozen. His movements were slow for a moment. He could hear the sound of his heart beating like a thunder drum. In the sparse woods, under the moonlight, Kiki's face also became clear. Seeing Kiki's face, the man's pupils shrank. No! No! This was not the people of the drumming tribe. Who the hell was this? Before he lost consciousness, he could only see the shadow of the knife and the flame-like lines under the moonlight. Chapter 232. After Kiki finished peeing, he yawned and went back with the bloody man in his hand. As soon as he opened the door, he found several pairs of eyes staring at him. The moonlight shining through the door was reflected in the eyes. Kiki was so scared that the sleepiness he had just woken up disappeared immediately. "What's wrong?" Kiki asked nervously. Although there were no torches in the room, everyone could see clearly what Kiki was carrying because of the moonlight. Not to mention, there was a strong smell of blood. Just now when Xiao Xian blew the whistle, the people who were asleep all got up and silently approached the door, ready to go out and solve the problem if something really happened. However, they didn't hear Kiki's signal for help for a long time. Now it seemed that this guy had solved the problem. "What's that in your hand?" Tua asked. He was worried that Kiki would kill the patrolling warriors of the drumming tribe. It was rare for them to meet a foreign tribe, and they had a cooperative relationship. It would be bad if Kiki made trouble at this time. "Oh, I don't know who it is." Kiki scratched his head and put the man down. He didn't know what to say. He didn't feel anything when he killed the man, but now he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. At that time, he acted according to his habit. He didn't care whether it was a man or a ferocious beast hiding in the grass. He dealt with the man in the same way he dealt with the ferocious beast. After he finished, he found that this time was different. Before Kiki could answer, Xiao Xian went closer to have a look. The man was almost cut in half by Kiki's knife. The blood started from the woods and extended to here. "He's not from the drumming tribe." Xiao Xian said after seeing the man's appearance. Not from the drumming tribe? Then who is it? He's not from Yanjiao either. Tua went closer, not caring about the blood and grass. He searched the dead man on the ground, but found nothing. Tomorrow, let the shaman and chief have a look. Or, let the people of the drumming tribe have a look. They are more familiar with the tribes here. Let's see if they can confirm it. Xiao Xian said. Kiki answered and then climbed onto the wooden bed. He put his arms behind his head and stared at the dark ceiling. Seeing this, Xiao Xian thought that this was the first time Kiki had killed someone, so he asked, Kiki, do you feel uncomfortable? Can't get used to it. Hearing this, the rest of the people didn't feel sleepy anymore. They wanted to hear Kiki's next answer. Kiki kept silent for a few seconds, then said slowly. No. What is that? Someone couldn't help but ask. After all, they had no experience in dealing with people like this. Thinking about the upcoming battle, they wanted to learn from Kiki, who had just experienced it himself. Experience was something that warriors had always valued. That is. Kiki paused after saying 2 words. What is it? I just feel. Why is this person so weak? It's not satisfying to kill him with 1 strike. Kiki said. Xiao Xian was speechless. This guy's old habit of looking down on people who could be killed with a single slash was back again. If the dead man heard this, he would be so angry that he would spit out blood. There were still a few days before the Water Moon Festival in the drumming tribe, and now the invaders had sent someone to investigate. The one sent here at this time was definitely not weak. At least, he was confident that he could avoid the patrols of the drumming tribe. However, he had triggered the warning system set by Xiao Xian in the forest. At the same time, Kiki, as a member of the advance group, had always gone all out when he met an enemy. He couldn't afford to be careless or slow down. This was the main reason why he killed the man with 1 slash. After chatting for a while, the warriors were too tired and fell asleep. Kiki also threw the man who was almost cut in half at the door. The next day, when the people of the drumming tribe came, they were shocked when they saw the scene at the door. They thought it was a civil war among the Yanjiao tribes. After hearing Xiao Xian's words, they became serious. To be on the safe side, they took the dead man with them and went to the chief of the drumming tribe with Kiki and Xiao Xian. Ao also went to check the situation. After carefully observing the dead man, Fan Mu shook his head and said, I don't know which tribe he came from. The people of the drumming tribe didn't travel around as much as the people of the Pu tribe, so they only knew the tribes closest to them and the tribes that often attacked them. They didn't know anything else. He should be the helper of the drumming tribe this time. A man beside Fan Mu said, he avoided the patrols outside. He could avoid the patrols outside, but he was easily killed by Kiki. Fan Mu and the shaman of the drumming tribe looked at each other and didn't say anything. They just had a new evaluation of the strength of the Yanjiao tribe's warriors, which could be seen from the slash marks on the dead man's body. Fan Mu and the others wanted to ask more about what happened last night, such as whether the enemy showed his totem or not, but Kiki's answers almost made them suffer internal injuries. Too sleepy, didn't pay attention, don't remember. As the most outstanding warrior of the younger generation of the drumming tribe, Qingyi looked at Kiki, who was scratching his ears and cheeks to recall the battle last night, and thought to himself. When Kiki was reenacting what happened last night, there was no murderous look on his face, nor in his words. There was only stupidity between his eyebrows, and no murderous look. Just by looking at the appearance, people of the Yanjiao tribe would definitely be more popular outside than the people of the drumming tribe, if they didn't wear the very distinctive clothes on the first day. It was a matter of appearance. People of the drumming tribe generally looked more exaggerated. However, as a person who often led a team to trade, Qingyi had an instinct of dealing with different people. He could feel a kind of dangerous aura from Kiki, like the wild beasts in the deep mountains who would kill their prey once they set their eyes on it. Fan Mu asked for a long time, but still didn't get much useful information, so he gave up and said to Ao, it seems that we have to deploy as soon as possible. Yes. Ao nodded. When the people of the drumming tribe and the people of the Yanjiao tribe were discussing how to deploy, hundreds of people of the drumming tribe gathered in a mountain not far from the border of the drumming tribe. The man in the lead was tall and thin, wearing black animal skin. On his face, a scar extended from his forehead to his jaw, and crossed his whole face. Coupled with his gloomy eyes, he looked like a poisonous snake. He was the leader who led the drumming tribe to attack the drumming tribe and rob the water moonstones, Ji. The man in the lead was holding a half-meter-long knife made of animal bones, looking in the direction of the drumming tribe. After a short while, he heard something, so he looked back and raised his chin. Finally here. I thought you gave up this good thing. I didn't expect you to still come. Let me be happy for nothing. Nearly 500 people came over. Although these people looked very ordinary, not as strong as the people of the drumming tribe, and not as murderous as the people of the drumming tribe, their footsteps were very light. This was not intentional, but a kind of habit, a habit cultivated since childhood. Among them, each totem warrior was holding a dagger-like long-handled weapon made of stone, animal bones, or beast horns. It's rare to have such a good opportunity. We of the drumming tribe certainly won't give it up. Among the people who came over, the leader laughed. As for the reason why we are late. We sent 2 people to the drumming tribe yesterday, but only one came back this morning. The man who was laughing just now, the smile in his eyes disappeared in an instant, and was replaced by gloominess and fierceness. Such a rapid change was very strange. Ji frowned, and the scar on his face became more and more ferocious. What do you want to say? You didn't tell us that the people of the drumming tribe found helpers. The man said angrily. Helpers? Ji looked sideways at the leader of the drumming tribe, the corners of his mouth raised, and there was a trace of disdain in his eyes. So what? If the drumming tribe is afraid, you can leave now. The drumming tribe never begged you to come with us, and we don't need it. In Ji's view, even if the drumming tribe found helpers, they would be some small tribes with little sense of existence in the periphery, and there was nothing to be afraid of. In your dreams. The leader of the drumming tribe sneered. In fact, his idea was similar to Ji's. After all, this was not the central region. They didn't need to be careful in everything. He was just more cautious than Ji. Of the 2 people sent out, only one came back, and the other didn't come back at the agreed time. Obviously, something happened. We still have to be careful. It's good to send someone to inquire about it. The person I sent out to inquire only heard that they found helpers, but didn't find out who the helpers of the drumming tribe were. The defense of the drumming tribe is much tighter, and he couldn't go deep into the residence of the drumming tribe to inquire. Enough! Ji impatiently interrupted the other party's words, saying, even if the group of Gorloks found helpers, who could they find? Look at how timid you are. The people of the drumming tribe thought, do you think everyone is as greedy and crazy as the people of the drumming tribe? The people of the drumming tribe were just greedy, but they were also afraid of death. If they lost their lives, why would they want precious things? Ji looked at the people of the drumming tribe sarcastically, and then glanced at other places on the mountain. On this mountain and the surrounding mountains, there were many people who wanted to play the game of mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Some people wanted to sneak into the drumming tribe when the battle was chaotic. Ji didn't intend to pay attention to these people. When they got all the things in their hands, they would deal with these weak and poor creatures. Ji took out a wooden whistle and blew it. Whoosh! A figure flew over the woods behind him and hovered in the sky twice, as if showing its heroic appearance to the people below. A kite trained by the feather tribe? The leader of the drumming tribe was surprised. Ji raised an arm and proudly looked at the bird in the sky flying down and standing on his shoulder. This was a raptor nearly 1 meter high with sharp eyes. When it spread its wings, it looked bigger and more powerful. The bird's claws were so strong that the animal skin coat on Ji's arm was torn by the bird's claws, but Ji didn't care. This was the crown kite that she exchanged a lot of things from the feather tribe to inquire about the situation. It looked similar to other kites, except that it had a few fan-shaped feathers on its head, like the crown on a rooster's head. That was why it was called a crown kite. It was a popular bird among the birds domesticated by the feather tribe for trading. Chapter 233. This kind of bird in the feather tribe was usually exchanged by other tribes to help them find people or inquire about some simple information. It could also be used as an early warning. However, to exchange for this kind of bird, a lot of food was needed. If you used shell coins, you would need several bunches to exchange for one bird. And this kind of crowned kite needed more things. It was expensive but very popular, especially in the central region. Maybe the failure made the drumming tribe a little worried, so this time they didn't hesitate to exchange for a crown kite at a high price. The crown kite was good at inquiring about the situation. It was this crown kite that told Ji about the other people hiding in the surrounding forest. In addition, the crown kite was more powerful than the common kites. When the crown kite was there, many birds in the forest would avoid it. Even if they didn't, they wouldn't collide with it easily. Ji showed the crown kite standing on his arm to the drumming tribe people, and then said slowly, "It's up to us to inquire about the situation over there." The people of the drumming tribe agreed with Ji's action very much, thinking that this man was not so crazy as to be brainless. But he must have spent a lot of things to exchange for such a bird from the feather tribe. If it were their drumming tribe, they wouldn't exchange too many things for a bird. Ji said something to the crown kite and raised his arm. "Go!" The crown kite flew up and screamed, as if it was asking other birds around to make way for it. Looking at the figure flying to the drumming tribe in the sky, Ji's smile became bigger and bigger. It won't take long for it to come back and tell us about the situation in the drumming tribe. Unfortunately, as soon as Ji finished his words and the smile on his face didn't disappear, he saw the crown kite that flew into the territory of the drumming tribe hurriedly fly back here, flapping its wings hard, as if something was chasing it. If it was a beast running on the ground, it could really be described as pissing in its pants. The drumming tribe people looked at the crown kite flying back in the sky, and turned to look at Ji, who was standing there with a stiff smile on his face. Was this what he meant by, "It won't take long to know"? Wasn't it too fast? Anyone who saw such a situation would be suspicious. It was not the right way to inquire. Obviously, there was something wrong. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Ji took out the wooden whistle and blew it, trying hard not to crush it. After hearing the whistle, the flying crown kite stopped flapping its wings for a while, but it didn't mean to stop. It glided directly over their heads and disappeared in the blink of an eye. No matter how Ji whistled or called, the eagle didn't come out. Ha ha ha. The leader of the drumming tribe laughed out loud. He was happy to see the drumming tribe make a fool of themselves. After spending so many things, this was all he got in return. Paw! Ji was so angry that he crushed the wooden whistle. There's no need to investigate anymore. When the time comes, just charge. This time, he brought 200 more people than the last time he attacked the drumming tribe. They were all intermediate totem warriors and 2 more senior totem warriors. There were still some people at the foot of the mountain. Together with the people of the drumming tribe, there were nearly 2,000 people. It would definitely be easier than last time. They would definitely be able to snatch the water moonstone successfully. The total number of the drumming tribe was large, but there were not many people who were a real threat. Originally, the tribe had planned to send another 1,000 people, but she refused. The more people there were, the less credit he could get. After all, some of the things he brought back were trophies that could be kept by himself. They just wanted to snatch things, not to fight for territory. If the 2 tribes were to fight, it would be more than just these people. It was better to destroy the drumming tribe directly. No, if he destroyed the drumming tribe, where would he get the water moonstone? Ji suppressed the idea in his heart. On the side of the drumming tribe, 2 more people were sent to the drumming tribe to inquire. This time, they didn't go deep, but they came back. They also found out that the reinforcements of the drumming tribe were called Yanjiao tribe. But that was all. How about it? I'll tell you. Ji had never heard of the Yanjiao tribe. It's just a small, unknown tribe on the periphery. Don't worry. Some people of the drumming tribe had heard of it, but not many, and they didn't think it was very important. They seemed to have heard of it in the last 2 years. But there was no such tribe in the central region. This time, the people of the drumming tribe were relieved. As long as there was no tribe in the central region, it was fine. They felt relatively easy and confident to deal with a small tribe on the periphery. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. The full moon finally came. For the people of the Yanjiao tribe, it was the first time for them to see such a spectacle in the drumming tribe. The muddy water became clear and transparent, and there were shining stones under the river. However, the people of the Yanjiao tribe didn't have much sense of value now. They just found the water moonstone fresh, and they couldn't eat it. Seeing the reaction of the Yanjiao tribe, the people of the drumming tribe finally felt relieved. They thought that the people of the Yanjiao tribe were all good people. Ao personally led some people to guard an area on the territory of the drumming tribe. This is our first battle here, and it's also a significant one. Our opponents are no longer the ferocious beasts in the forest, but the invaders from other tribes. They're the same as us. But what I want to say is, although the invaders are also humans and not ferocious beasts, I still hope you can treat them seriously like how you hunt ferocious beasts. Just like Kiki, let these invaders see the ability of the Yanjiao tribe. Let them remember how the Yanjiao tribe defeated them. Being praised by the chief in public, Kiki felt very proud. What's there to be proud of? When the time comes, I'll definitely hunt more than you. Tua and the others secretly thought. Ao's gaze swept across the people gathered here and said solemnly, "The invaders are not my people. Kill the invaders. Kill." The people seemed to have returned to the time when they were in the tribe, standing on the top of the mountain before the hunt, mobilizing before the hunt. At this time, they really wanted to sing the hunting song, but the chief didn't allow it. After finishing his words, Ao waved his hand, and the people gathered here immediately scattered to different places. This was the arrangement they had made in advance. They were divided into hunting groups, and each group had its own place to be responsible for. Xiao Xian was assigned to Keek's group. They were all members of the advance group, and later they would catch some powerful people, such as middle-level and senior totem warriors. It was the first time for them to face such a hunt, so many people were very nervous and excited. After holding back for so long, they could finally hunt. Hey, in the air, Cha-Cha had already warned. Then, not far away, there came the sound of the people patrolling outside the drumming tribe. This meant that the people over there had officially set off. Ao stood in the same place and didn't move. He quietly listened to the movements nearby, as well as some small sounds in the distance that were quickly approaching. Whoosh, an arrow, from the other side of the forest, was shot towards Ao, who was standing there, straight to his face. This arrow was carefully made, and the arrowhead was also polished with the best stone material, which could easily penetrate a tree trunk. The archer's archery was also very good. The arrow passed through the forest, but didn't touch a branch or a leaf. Instead, it caught a little gap that was difficult to find in the forest. However, when this fierce arrow was half an arm away from Ao, it was firmly caught and then thrown back. It almost followed the trajectory of the arrow, but after all, it missed Ao a little. Finally, with a tut sound, it shot into the trunk of a tree. Ji, who shot this arrow, looked at Ao, who was across the forest. His eyelids twitched, and a strong sense of crisis suddenly came to him. He was a senior totem warrior, and so was the person standing there. Looking at the arrow that pierced into the trunk not far away, Ji looked at the other side of the forest, and happened to meet Ao's eyes. Ao held the long spear in his hand, staring at the archer. The totem power in his body was running to the peak, and all the totem patterns on his body appeared. The flame-like totem patterns of senior totem warriors almost covered his whole body, extending to his fingers. A strong sense of foreboding spread all over his body. Ji immediately jumped down from the tree and left the original place. That kind of totem was definitely not from any tribe he had ever seen. This was the Yanjiao tribe, Ji thought in his heart. His thumb rubbed on the long handle, and then, just like he had thrown it thousands of times in hunting, Ao threw the long spear in his hand. Fast! The long spear was like a sudden lightning, quickly passing through the gap between the trees, rubbing the bark of some trees on the way, and then penetrating the body of an invader who rushed over. The long spear went through his body, and the bright red blood was brought out with the long spear. However, the long spear didn't stop flying out like the blood, but penetrated 2 trees at a faster speed than the splashing blood, and went to Ji. However, Ji quickly changed his position, and the place where he was just now, another warrior of the drumming tribe passed by. After penetrating 1 person and 2 trees, the long spear pierced the body of the second invader, and finally nailed deeply into a tree as thick as a bucket. Wherever the spear had touched, the bark and wood chips on the tree trunk exploded, producing a loud bang. Crack, 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 that tree fell down. Seeing the situation over there, Ji was shocked. The Yanjiao tribe didn't seem to be as weak as they thought. Except for Ao's place, there were fights and killings everywhere else. Some people of the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe were really good at hiding, but for the Yanjiao tribesmen who often dealt with the ferocious beasts in the mountains and forests, this was really nothing. This was also the reason why Kiki sensed the opponent's position after receiving Xiao Xian's warning. Xiao Xian waved the stone knife in his hand, and the stone knife chopped down from the air turned into a gray lightning, going straight behind the grass in front of him. But when it was about to hit the grass, the wrist holding the knife slightly shook, and the knife suddenly changed its original route and stabbed into the grass. Seeing Xiao Xian's knife coming at him, the man picked up the stone tool in his hand, intending to block it. Unexpectedly, Xiao Xian suddenly changed his attack midway. He didn't have time to follow the change, and his forearm was pierced through by the stone knife. The knife quickly pierced through the arm bone and pierced the man's neck without stopping. Pulling out the knife, Xiao Xian looked at the other people in other places. Tua beheaded an invader of the drumming tribe with 1 knife, without any slack. As Ao said, he treated every invader like how he faced the ferocious beasts when he was hunting. The burst of totem power, every swing of the knife, every attack, was just like when he was hunting in the mountains and forests of the tribe. He didn't use the knife, but once he did, he used the strength to chop the ferocious beasts. Even the ferocious beasts with thick skin and hard armor would bleed if they were hit, let alone these unarmored humans. Tuo's knife was even more powerful than Keek's that day. The man who was hit by Tuo's knife didn't even have time to say a word before his body split open. Hot blood sprayed out, splashing on the ground, on the tree trunk, in the grass, and even on Tuo's body. Without stopping, Tuo quickly set his target on the second intruder. He waved his sword before Xiao Xian could. The blade quickly drew a horizontal arc in the air, and the second intruder was directly cut in half at the waist. The attack was executed in a single breath. The speed, the ruthlessness, and the ferocity of the saber completely exceeded the invader's imagination. Puff! The color of blood spread out like a red fountain. The man who was hit by the knife was still in the air, but below the waist, he ran 2 steps before falling down. When Fu Shi came over with 2 warriors of the drumming tribe to check on the situation of the Yanjiao tribe, they happened to see this scene. They had seen many similar situations along the way, and it had already made them feel a chill in their hearts. Sucking in a cold breath with the smell of blood, and then looking at the violent man in the killing field who was abnormally calm, Fu Shi and the others suddenly felt the hair on their head stand up. What kind of people were these? They were not inferior to the style of the drumming tribe at all. Even more terrifying, there was a kind of momentum that made people directly shrink back. The people of the drumming tribe also violently tore people apart, but when they saw the way the Yanjiao tribe acted, they couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Noticing the arrival of Fu Shi and the others, and after cutting down the third invader, Tuo looked back in the direction of Fu Shi and the others and smiled in a friendly way. However, because he was on the battlefield, his eyes flashed with a little bit of cold light. Taking a deep breath, and then another, Fu Shi and the others felt like they were poured with the coldest ice in winter, and their bodies were about to explode from the cold. The drumming tribe was bloodthirsty? Yes. The drumming tribe was more bloodthirsty? Of course it was. Then what about the Yanjiao tribe? The people of the drumming tribe couldn't help but ask this question in their hearts. This was no longer a question of whether they were bloodthirsty or not, this was more like another level of killing. Looking at the stunned reactions of Fu Shi and the others, Xiao Xian actually felt very emotional. Before, he had thought that the people of the Yanjiao tribe would be merciful because it was the first time they faced a fellow human invader, and that would cause some psychological and physiological reactions. However, Xiao Xian admitted that he was still too naive. From Keek's time, Xiao Xian knew that when facing the same kind, the so-called psychological and physiological reactions were almost non-existent. Here, there was only the tribe, their own people, and the enemy. This was probably deeply engraved in their blood since birth. Of course, this also included Xiao Xian's current body. These people of the Flaming Horns tribe were like humanoid weapons that had been locked up for a long time. In the past, they were only confined in unknown places to practice. But now, these humanoid weapons were finally released. Chapter 234. Whether it was Tuo or the other members of the Yanjiao tribe, they all exuded a murderous aura that couldn't be ignored. It was so thick that it made people tremble. This was a group of hunters who wandered outside and were gradually forgotten by the world. They were a group of killing gods. They seemed to have walked out of a sea of blood, their violent and tyrannical aura making people breathless. However, these people were very restrained. As long as they wanted, they could hide all their murderous aura in the next moment. These people were like human-shaped weapons that had suddenly been thrown into this area, and they caused numerous bloody and murderous intents. Seeing Xiao Xian and Tuo looking at him doubtfully, Fu Shi came back to his senses and swallowed his saliva. He said, "The chief asked me to come over and see if you need help here." Towards the end, Fu Shi didn't have enough confidence and was embarrassed to continue. "Do you still need help? Don't you see that the situation here is almost one-sided?" "Cough, you don't seem to need it," Fu Shi said embarrassedly. "Don't worry here. Fu Shi, you can take care of the people in the tribe who are harvesting the water moonstones. There should be people who have hidden very well who have broken through. Even if the Yanjiao tribe was in charge of this area, there would be people who broke through the defense line in other places. Just like before, there might even be other people who interfered. The drumming tribe was also not peaceful. Well, since you're fine here, we'll leave first." After saying that, Fu Shi took his people and ran away. As he ran away, Fu Shi thought to himself, "I told you not to worry about the Yanjiao tribe people. Before, when I saw Xiao Xian's strength, I knew that the people in this tribe should be relatively strong." The chief was worried for nothing. These people of the Flaming Horns tribe were not weak. On the contrary, they were much stronger than they had imagined. If they were to fight against such a tribe, Fu Shi shuddered. However, with such a tribe as a helper, the drumming tribe was indeed much more relaxed this time. After Fu Shi left, Tuo shook off the blood on his knife. His body was also stained with a lot of blood, but he didn't bother to wipe it off. He went to the other side with Xiao Xian. No one had come here for the time being. It was a waste of time to just stand there. They needed to take the initiative to search. In the drumming tribe, there were many places with tall grass and dense shrubs. Many invaders who were good at hiding liked to wait in such places and wait for an opportunity. Xiao Xian walked into a bush that was taller than him and used his stone knife to push aside the weeds in front of him. He was vigilant of his surroundings. As long as there was the slightest movement, he would immediately slash with his knife. This was because most of the movements were caused by the hidden intruders. As he walked, two more people jumped out from the bushes. Xiao Xian was about to start, but Tua stopped him, indicating that he should do it. Tua was just about to use his saber when he saw a person rush out from the side. "I'll do it. I'll do it." Kiki rushed over before Tua could do anything. The stone knife in his hand chopped at the intruder in the front. 1 slash, 2 slashes, 3 slashes, the dense grass that was filled with the smell of grass was suddenly filled with the thick smell of blood. The invader who had been alive and kicking just a moment ago was now lying on the ground silently. In this place, except for their own people, all living creatures with attacking power were regarded as enemies. At this moment, in their eyes, these intruders were the same as all kinds of prey they had encountered when they were hunting in the forest. Although these intruders looked like them, the chief had said that all non-members of the tribe were the same. Of course, allies were different. Kiki didn't feel any pressure at all. Sometimes, Xiao Xian only felt that these people's thoughts were unbelievably simple. For many people, things that were difficult to adapt to were not a problem for them at all. After killing 2 intruders, Kiki ran away and continued to search for other intruders hiding in other places. Tua was so angry that he chased after Kiki because his prey was robbed. He also wanted to rob Kiki's prey. How many prey they had hunted was to be reported afterwards. The chief had said that they would be rewarded according to their merits. Their team was in charge of this area and didn't say where they had to guard. Therefore, they only needed to find those intruders in this area and kill them. Xiao Xian didn't follow them, but continued to walk forward. As he approached the edge of the area they were in charge of, he ran into Mao who was running towards him. Behind Mao, there were 3 people who were chasing after him. Judging from the weapons in their hands, they were all from the drumming tribe. Mao, who was running, suddenly turned around and chopped at the man who was chasing him the most. The man reacted quickly and blocked it with the weapon in his hand. Mao's knife had been chipped a lot because of several slashes. This time, the strong chop directly broke the knife from the middle. Mao threw the broken knife in his hand, and half of the knife pierced into the throat of the man who was chasing him. Mao didn't stop, but pulled out another stone knife from his waist. Looking at the 2 people who were chasing him, he bent his knees and bounced to the side, running towards them. Mao saw Xiao Xian, but he felt that he had the ability to deal with him. What he was doing now was to tell Xiao Xian not to interfere, and he would deal with it himself. Otherwise, if he felt that he couldn't handle it, he would run towards Xiao Xian instead of away. Xiao Xian wasn't worried. With Mao's current strength as an intermediate totem warrior, it would be difficult for him to fight against 3 people by himself. After all, they were also intermediate totem warriors. The Yanjiao tribesmen didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Instead, they ran away. It was just like encountering a fierce beast when hunting. If they couldn't beat it, they would run away. After running away, they would look for a chance to stab back, or even give a fatal blow. There was no doubt that the warriors of the Yanjiao tribe were calmer than the people of the drumming tribe. Their calmness made the people of the drumming tribe feel scared. When the people of the drumming tribe encountered similar situations, most of them would say, "I'm not afraid of you. Fight." This was because their eyes were red from killing, and their emotions were out of control. And the people of the Flaming Horns tribe, just like Mao, ran away first. When the pursuers thought that he was going to escape to a safer place or look for his companions, they found that he turned around and slashed his blade, killing the pursuers one by one. They could always find the best chance to attack when others thought they were crazy and lost their minds. However, the people of the drumming tribe, and the drumming tribe didn't know that when the people of the Yanjiao tribe were hunting in the forest, the more dangerous the situation was, the more frequently they would use their killing moves. If the people of the Yanjiao tribe didn't have a calm mind at that time, they would have died long ago. They didn't expect to be smart or flexible. They only needed to keep calm in the short time when the situation was critical. In this way, even if they couldn't kill, they could choose to escape unscathed. As Xiao Xian expected, Mao killed the pursuers very calmly. One strike, another strike, another strike. After that, there were several more wounds on Mao's body. But he didn't care. After applying some medicine, he ran to where his grandfather was. On Ao's side. After several unsuccessful attacks, Ji found that the people he was facing were very difficult to deal with. Facing Ao, it was like facing a towering ancient mountain. Standing in front of such a mountain, Ji suddenly felt that he was a little small. Ao's attack came without any warning. Just a moment ago, he was still walking slowly, as if he had left the battlefield and did not want to be a spectator. However, the next moment, he took a step forward like lightning. Under the stimulation of the totem power that had soared to the peak and the momentum of this step, he waved his arm like the long spear that had been thrown out just now. With the momentum of this step, he rushed towards Ao with a strong and fierce momentum that could break through everything. When Mao arrived, he just saw a figure being hit by his grandfather. Chapter 235. Hearing Mao's whistle, Xiao Xian knew that Ao had decided to let those guys out. However, Caesar was not among them. Xiao Xian did not ask Caesar to come over. He asked Caesar to stay on the ship to protect Old Ko and the others. They also needed to be on guard. After all, the elderly, the children, and the women who had not awakened their totemic powers were all there, not to mention the shaman and the fire seed. After Mao blew the whistle, he was targeted by 2 more intruders. But this time, Mao did not kill them immediately. Instead, he led the 2 tails in circles. After a few circles, there were 3 tails. Suddenly, Mao stopped and stood there, looking back at the 3 tails who were chasing him. Because of Mao's sudden stop, the 3 people who were chasing him also stopped 10 steps away from him. The 3 of them targeted Mao because he was young. Such a young warrior should be easier to deal with, so they avoided those fierce-looking middle-aged warriors and chose this younger one. However, why was this young warrior not nervous at all when surrounded by the 3 of them, and there was no fear in his eyes? Was it a trick? The 3 of them were suspicious. Then they sneered in their hearts. What could such a young warrior do? Just when the 3 of them were about to rush over, they suddenly heard a sound and the ground was shaking. Dong, 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 the sound was getting closer and closer, and the shaking of the ground was getting more and more obvious, indicating that a heavy object was approaching. What on earth was it? The 3 of them turned around and saw a tall figure running towards them from afar. The figure barged through the obstacles in front of him in a barbaric manner. Because of the speed of his running, the fats on his body were jiggling. Such a fast running speed was totally incompatible with the fat on his body. It was like a chariot rushing over at high speed. What was that? The 3 of them were frightened. A wild boar without hair. No matter what it was not easy to deal with. Spread out. The 3 of them scattered in 3 directions. However, they underestimated the speed of Sia's change of direction. Bang! 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 3 consecutive collisions. Because of the sudden change of direction, the grass and soil were kicked up and splashed everywhere. When the grass and soil fell down, the 3 people who were planning to deal with Mao just now were nowhere to be seen. Only some splashed blood on the ground remained. After sending the 3 invaders flying, Sia was very excited. From the moment they left the tribe until just now, their hands and feet were tied. They were either locked on the ship or ordered to stay near the fleet. They were not allowed to run around at all. When they heard that there was a battle going on in the tribe, their hooves were itching and their claws were even more itchy. Similar things happened everywhere in the area of the drumming tribe. At this moment, not long after those engraved beasts left, at the place where the Yanjiao tribe's fleet stopped, a figure quickly rushed out of the woods, like a ghost, almost without any sound. The beasts around the fleet had run away, so at this moment, there were no ferocious beasts guarding the bank of the tributary where the fleet stopped. This invasion was much more difficult than before. As one of the best at hiding in the drumming tribe, he was one of the few who could smoothly break through the defense line. Originally, he wanted to go directly to the water moon channel of the drumming tribe to grab the water moonstones. However, after seeing the ships on this tributary, he came over. Looking at the big ships in front of him, the man was surprised and doubtful. Were these really not from the longboat tribe? Why were these ships so big? Except for the longboat tribe and those tribes who spent a lot of things to exchange for ships with the longboat tribe, who else could build these ships? After careful observation, he found that the trees used to build ships should be huge, so big that he had never seen them before. Even the chief of the drumming tribe should not have seen such a big tree, right? So, where did the people who owned these ships come from? However, this question did not stay in his mind for long. He thought that since there were such big ships, there must be more good things in them. Maybe there were fire crystals. A look of greed flashed across his face. Because there were warriors staring at him, he decided to go through the water. At this time, the crocodiles of the drumming tribe had left. In his impression, the water was safe at this time. In order to invade the drumming tribe, the people of the drumming tribe had trained themselves well in the water, so it was not difficult for him to go through the water. He went into the water from another place, intending to get close to the biggest ship. In the biggest ship, there must be the most valuable things. Quietly entering the water, he swam towards the fleet from under the water. But as he swam, he found that the water around him was moving. It was not caused by him. What was it? Before he turned back, a big hook-like mouth bit over, clamped his waist, and then the big mouth closed. Blood spread out from under the water. The warriors standing on the ship looked at the dark liquid coming out of the water, as well as the swaying water waves, and moved their eyes to other places expressionlessly, looking for any possible intruders. As for the water, it was better to leave it to the turtle. At the water moon channel, the children of the drumming tribe were seizing the time to get the water moonstones, while the adults looked at them with tense nerves, in case someone suddenly appeared to rob them. But the strange thing was, until now, they had not seen a single intruder. Just now, they heard a scream from not far away, but other than that, they only heard the sound and did not see anyone. In the forest, the battle was still going on. Roar, a beast roar came from the forest. Before the others could think about what it was, another beast roar came. It was different from the previous one, and they could hear that it was made by two different beasts. Two beasts. The hidden people thought. But this was not the end. Then, there was another roar, and another. The forest was trembling. Like a report, the roars came one after another, and they all belonged to different beasts. At this time, standing not far from the drumming tribe, the people who were planning to follow the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe to take advantage of the situation, stopped abruptly. The leader was a little fat. When he heard the beastly roars that penetrated the forest one after another, the fat on his face twitched continuously. His fingers that were holding the knife turned white, and the corners of his lips twitched violently due to nervousness. It was as if someone was slapping his face from the side. Before, they only heard that the drumming tribe had helpers, and did not care at all. But now, they had to care. "Leader, are we still going in?" A warrior behind him asked in a trembling voice. "Something seems wrong," the leader said in a low voice. Although he did not enter the territory of the drumming tribe to see it with his own eyes, he knew that the two tribes who wanted to rob the water moonstones were in trouble. It was not that he did not think that the drumming tribe would turn the tables and resist the joint attack of the drumming tribe and the drumming tribe. He had heard of some similar unexpected things before, but this kind of thing really happened to him, and he could not calm down in a short time. "Leader, look, there is a bird over there," a warrior said to the leader. A group of people looked over. On a high tree not far away, there was a white bird resting. To be exact, it was a falcon, about the same size as Xi's crown kite. They had never seen such a white falcon, and it did not look like a wild one. "What is that? Is it the bird that the drumming tribe exchanged from the feather tribe?" You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.